Iniciamos transmisión, esto lo quito, voy poniendo esto para hacer un pequeño recordatorio. Esta luz debería estar más... Ahora está como muy dándome ahí un saco, ¿sabes? Un saco. Voy a ponerlo más para acá. La luz esta. Yo creo que ahí estamos. Voy a mirar, voy a comprobar que todo está bien. Chat en directo, muy buenas. Sí, aquí está. ¿Dónde estamos aquí? Mención en YouTube, esto ya está, ¿vale? He quitado publicidad, no debería saltar de ninguna manera la publicidad ahora mismo, ¿vale? No debería saltar de ningún tipo de publicidad. Tengo aquí al lado un ventilador, si molesta el ruido le puedo poner una velocidad menos, ¿eh? Decídmelo y le quito un poquito de caña a esto, ¿vale? He cogido la presentación porque antes de que empecemos tal y cual, pues antes de que empiece esto, voy a coger y voy a recordar un poquito, ¿no? Lo que hablamos el otro día, tal, así muy rápidamente las cosas que pueden hablar, las cosas que pueden anunciar. Y con eso, pues vamos al lío. Mini Roleto, José Paelche, muy buenas. Sí, ya con puntilla, vaya leche. Hola, muy buenas. ¿Cómo vamos? ¿Cómo vamos? Sergio saluda y se va. Iñaki también no puede porque se va todo el mundo. No están a lo que hay que estar. No están a la cosa importante, ¿vale? No están a las cosas importantes. Cogen y me voy, tengo que hacer cosas, tengo que cenar, tengo que no sé qué. Por favor, eso es secundario. Por favor, eso es secundario. Eso es secundario. Eh, pues nada más, vamos a hacer un repasito, si os parece. Army, muy buenas, muy buenas. Vamos a hacer un repasito así guay de qué es lo que pueden hablar. Recordemos que, ¿vale? Opa. Tenemos dentro de las cosas que van a hablar, de los temas que supuestamente van a tocar, van a estar 40K, Age of Sigmar, Underworlds, The Old War, Legiones Imperiales, bueno, Legions Imperialis, Herejía de Horus, Kill Team y Black Library, ¿vale? De los libritos, ¿vale? Entonces, pues ahí tenemos esas temáticas, ¿no? Esos grupos, ¿no? Para hablar, que yo ya dije que obviamente esto va a durar una hora, no dura menos, que aquí hay 8 cosas, por lo tanto, no se van a tirar 10 minutos con cada cosa. Hay cosas que van a hablar muy poquito, presumiblemente Underworlds, Legends Imperiales y Black Library, esos tres van a hablar muy poquito, va a durar nada, no durará ni 5 minutos y da gracias, ¿no? Y en el resto, pues quizá otro de los dos, Herejía Horus o World War, esos puede durar un poquito más, pero tampoco como supuestamente o deberíamos de intuir que debería durar 40K y hecho así, ¿vale? 40K porque es 40K, no hay más, no hay más. Y hecho así mal porque sabemos que sacan ejército nuevo que va a ser Nano Caos, ¿no? Que van a ser los enanos del caos, que todavía no tenemos nombre confirmado. Existen las dos teorías, ¿no? Lo de Hellsmiths of Hashut o Hellsmiths of Hashut. Muy parecidos ambas opciones, ¿no? Oye, esto lo tengo un poquito mal. Voy a ver si lo recoloco un poquito, que está un pelín mal. Armin, no sé si te he saludado, pero si no lo he hecho, te saludo ahora. Bueno, dicho esto, ¿qué pueden hablar? Pues bueno, recordad lo de los cascos. He estado leyendo últimamente mucho para Herejía de Horus, algo en plan de Skitari Pilgrims. Entonces, el cuarto, que es como que yo dije de la guerra de secesión, tal y cual, pues por ahí podría ir, ¿vale? Recordad eso de los sombreritos, tal cual. El resto ya lo dijimos que pues son marines o 40K o algo así, ¿no? Que tal, Votan, luego pues, podría ser cualquier cosa, bueno, luego miramos lo que hicimos, ¿no? Luego lo de Herejía Horus, pues hicimos esto, que había estas 3 imágenes sobre todo, ¿no? Que ya nos avanzaban, pues el kit de mejoras de armamento, que se lo pueden presentar un juez cualquiera, no hay ningún tipo de problemática, así que por ahí pueden tirar por lo que sea, ¿no? Y luego tendríamos aquí que sigue que aquí hay Mechanicus, ¿no? Estos que, pues los Esquitari, esos que se están rumoreando, y Custodes, ¿no? Entonces, pues lo más probable es que hablasen de uno de esos dos. De Legends Imperialis, pues yo tiré un poquito la cosa en el tema de Mechanicus, que no hay casi nada, pero Víctor, ya sabéis, nos dijo el tema de, oye, ¿y si sacan las armaduras saturninas estas que han salido ahora en Herejía de Horus? ¿Por qué no las enseñan también para Legends Imperiales? Que estaría bastante normal, ¿no? Eso de ahí. De Kill Team se lleva rumoreando mucho el tema de exploradores lobos espaciales, porque Balrak ya dijo que eran uno de esos de la salida hace mucho tiempo, de la salida nueva de lobos espaciales dentro de todos esos kits, y solo faltan por salir estos. Todos los demás los ha acertado, o los que dijo son. Entonces no hay ningún tipo de duda en ese aspecto de que debería salir en algún momento para Kill Team, seguramente no, estos exploradores lobos espaciales. Pero también se estaba rumoreando desde hace bastante poco, pero con mucha fuerza, el tema de Death Watch y Necrones, una nueva caja de inicio. ¿Vale? No sé si nueva temporada, no me acuerdo ya si era nueva temporada o nueva caja de inicio. Entonces, pues por ahí habría esa gran posibilidad. ¿Vale? Bien. ¿Qué más? ¿Qué más tendríamos por aquí? Pues bueno, luego tendríamos de 40K había mogollón de cosas, ¿no? De marinada. Esto era lo de primero, lo de la marinada, ¿no? Personajes para todos estos capítulos un poquito menores o que no tienen tanta presencia como pueden ser lobos espaciales, ángeles oscuros, ángeles sangrientos, etcétera, ¿no? Pues los salamandras, cicatrices, guardia del cuervo, eh, puños imperiales, etcétera, etcétera, ¿no? Que tienen un poquito menos de presencia o de diferenciación con respecto al resto de ejércitos, no porque no puedan tenerla, porque, joder, a los salamandras es que los hinchas de escamas y de cosas y quedan geniales. Los manos de hierro, pues bueno, les pones kits más robóticos y cosas así, pues siguen saliendo, ¿no? Más cyborg y cosas de ese estilo, pues ese tipo de cosas, ¿no? Pues muchos personajes que iban a salir para todos esos... un personaje, mejor dicho, para cada uno de esos capítulos secundarios, vamos a decir secundarios sin malas intenciones, ¿vale? Que quedan un poquito relegados, mejor dicho, ¿no? Y entonces, pues ahí estaría, que también iban a salir Combat Patrol, ¿vale? Que tal cual. Que últimamente y se está diciendo de exterminadores de asalto, ¿vale? Termis de asalto que incluso iba a salir una caja y la caja iba a tener un capitán exterminador, 10 exterminadores para que los puedas montar principalmente de asalto, según tengo entendido, cosas así, ¿no? Pero también se hablaba mucho, y se habla mucho de hace bastante tiempo, del tema de asalto, ¿vale? De motos, no sé qué, no sé cuántos, pues un poquito de caña a esos tipos de unidades, ¿no? Yo ya lo dije en el directo, esto no sé por qué me huele más, esa parte de las motos y tal igual, me huele más a caja de 11ª, ¿vale? De la siguiente edición. Pero bueno, ahí estaría. Pero no es solo eso, es que se ha estado hablando mucho también de Eldas Oscuros, aunque según los rumores que he escuchado, su renovación importante vendrá en 11ª, en la próxima edición, pero también se ha hablado mucho de Corsarios, ¿vale? De ahí pues sombreritos de piratitas y de Corsarios y ese tipo de cosas, pues estos lo cumplen, ¿no? Recordemos que los Eldars Oscuros se dedican a eso, ¿no? A saltar como cual piratas en naves para hacer prisioneros, etcétera, tal, ¿no? Pues oye, pues podría corresponder. Aunque también, como digo, luego hablaremos de otras cosillas. Y luego, pues si teníamos en cuenta el roadmap, pues estaba la liga de Votan. Y claro, como hemos visto en las imágenes, liga de Votan, pues ahí está. Entonces, de 40K, como podemos ver, hay muchísimas cosas. Pero muchísimas. Que podrían ser. No que vayan a salir. Hay que tener eso mucho cuidado, ¿no? Porque claro, si me dices, los personajes, ¿cómo los vas a enseñar? Es que o los enseñas de todo de golpe, directamente en esta preview, así, rasca, todos los personajes ahí de golpe, de los capítulos estos, o son para lunes, personaje. Y ahí te los vas quitando uno a uno, o es incluso de dos en dos, ¿vale? Es una opción, ¿vale? Es una opción. Vale, bueno, estaba señalando aquí esto, pero bueno, ahí estaría. De Tow, ¿vale? De Old World, de mundo viejuno. ¿Qué podría ser? Recordemos. Se hablaba mucho siempre de esa segunda oleada, tipo, pues, no sé si eran arcabuceros, bueno, ataque a distancia, ¿no? Etcétera, unidades que faltan, ¿no? Dentro de ese roster de unidades, sobre todo, ¿no? Pues distancia, etcétera, ¿no? Que se queda un poquito cojo en la gama, pero como vimos en un artículo, ya decían que iba a salir un segundo Arcane Journal, y en ese segundo Arcane, pues es que ya te decían que no iba a haber unidades nuevas, que iba a centrar sobre todo en trasfondo, en Yao Miao o como se llame la mujer esta, y en las unidades separadas, o yo que sé, cosas así, ¿vale? Que no iba a haber nada nuevo. Entonces ya me parece raro que te anuncien ahora terceras cosas para sacarte un tercer Arcane Journal, ¿vale? Entonces esto yo veo que es menos probable, ¿vale? ¿Qué podría ser otra opción? Oye, pues como hemos visto el tema del tocado de Faraón y tal y cual, y etcétera, pues podrían empezar a hablar de renovación de minis antiguas, ¿no? Estas minis que son horribles, ¿no? Vamos a decirlo seriamente y ya está. No, si alguien me quiere decir cualquier cosa negativa, me da absolutamente igual, ¿no? Estas minis antiguas, tan antiguas y tal, muchas de ellas son horribles, que no las quiere ni el tato. Vendieron por nostalgia y ya está. Pero luego son un ñorugo. Y si te venden esta unidad rediseñada en plastiquete, ojo, ¿no? Pues estas unidades mucho mejor. Entonces, pues podría ser una opción, ¿no? Podría ser esa una opción. O la segunda opción probable, que yo la veo más probable, es una campaña con unidades nuevas, ¿vale? Para cada este. ¿Por qué? Porque la otra sería un poco perrería, ¿vale? Lo explico. Claro, si te empiezan ahora a renovar unidades antiguas que te vendían en las cajas del Army Box este, y dices, joder, es que esas unidades de hace 20 años, que no sé qué, que a mí tampoco me hacían mucho tilín y que las he comprado para poder jugar tal y cual, me las has renovado en 2 años. 2 años. Que tienen 30 años, ¿no? Esas miniaturas, muchas de ellas. Pues estaría feo, ¿no? Porque te las ponen a la venta tal. ¿Qué opción podría ser? Oye, campaña con unidades nuevas. Y así te venden más cosas, ¿vale? Entonces ahí estaría. Uy, 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 aquí suena algo, ¿vale? Aquí suena algo. Voy a bajarle un poquito el sonidito, que no sé cómo lo estaréis escuchando vosotros, ¿vale? Eso es que el preview está ya carburando, ¿vale? En YouTube, ¿vale? Entonces ahí estaría. Están las sombras, están las sombras. Uy, 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 pues voy a copiarlas. Deja copiar las sombras ahí bien. Bueno, lo pongo así. Pues vamos a teorizar. Venga, vamos a teorizar sobre las sombras. Voy a poner esto aquí. Pum, ala, directamente. Recorto y agrando. Pues al final sí que hay cositas ahí. Hoy, 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 que al final va a haber notánimas y todo. Bueno, 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 me estoy adelantando, perdonadme. Vale. Vale, vamos a ver, vamos a ver, vamos a ver. Vamos a hablar de las estas. Voy. Campaña, fuera, fuera. Ponte, aquí está, ¿vale? Aquí está, siluetas. Siluetas. Bueno, vale. Empezamos por aquella que no se ve mucho, que es la de arriba a la izquierda. Esto es un marine, porque se ve en la mochila retro. Ahí, un marine o un Votan, porque creo que los Votan también tenían este tipo de mochilas. ¿Vale? Las tomas estas, tal y cual. Así que por ahí yo creo que lo tenemos bastante claro, ¿no es así, chavales? ¿Vale? Esto de aquí arriba a la izquierda es Marine. El siguiente es Nanocaos. Me podéis, ya lo sabíamos, ¿no? Que iba a salir Nanocaos, pero aquí están Nanocaos. ¿Vale? Aquí están Nanocaos. ¿Vale? Primera imagen, bueno, segunda imagen de arriba, Nanocaos. Yo creo que no hay dudas, ¿no? El sombrero alto lo indica. Ahora, ¿de qué será? De hecho Sigmar o de Underworlds. Podemos ahí tener la duda, ¿no? El siguiente, uf, el siguiente, tenemos, eso es mecánicos. Vale, eso es mecánicos. Yo creo que todos deberíamos de, ¿no? Yo creo que todos estamos de acuerdo que el siguiente es mecánicos. ¿Vale? Entonces esa que se puede ir para herejía de Horus. ¿Vale? Se puede ir para herejía de Horus o para Crypt Team o para 40k, pero seguramente yo tiraría para herejía Horus por todo aquello que hemos dicho de mecánicos. ¿Vale? Si está muy alto el sonido de la musicola esta, me lo decís, ¿eh? Y lo bajo un poquito. ¿Vale? El cuarto son Kurnosis, dice Mineralito. Para Underworlds, ¿no? Dice la Zack. ¿Está Zack por aquí? ¿Está Zack por aquí? ¿Dónde está Zack? Bueno, no estoy saludando a nadie, ¿eh? Voy a ir saludando. Mar Baker, muy buenas. Tindomul, Tomás, Proideo, Joe, Edu, hacía mucho que no te veíamos por aquí. Rusound, ¿vale? Andrés, no está Zack por aquí. Eso podría ser perfectamente Kurnosis. O un héroe para elfos silvanos, para All World. ¿Vale? Yo optaría por héroe elfo silvano para All World. ¿Vale? Bien, la última de la fila de arriba, la quinta. Yo optaría porque es Necrones para Kill Team. ¿Vale? Yo optaría que esa es Necrones para Kill Team. Ahora vamos con esos. Vamos a ir yendo poco a poco, ¿vale? Conoces con Nanocauf Rusound, ¿vale? Tomás, Kenry. Sí, vamos por ahora, por orden, ¿vale? Vamos por ahora por orden. ¿Podrían ser esos enanos del Caos para All War? Lo dudo mucho, Daniel. Van a ser para hechos Sigmar, lo siento, ¿vale? Está confirmadísimo que son para hechos Sigmar. ¿Vale? La de abajo a la derecha, abajo a la izquierda, perdón. La de abajo, la fila inferior, la primera. No tengo ni idea. ¿Vale? Ni idea. No tengo absolutamente ni idea. Pero la segunda, no creo que haya muchas dudas. Yo creo que es 100%, como ha dicho Tomás, que eso es para Kenry, ¿vale? Para Reyes Funerarios, para All War. Esa, cero dudas, yo creo. Luego tenemos el famoso alquimista Nighthound, Noctanimas, ¿vale? Y por último tenemos un marine, ¿vale? Un marine con retro, parece, ¿no? Por lo del tema de la mochila tan grande tal y cual, parece que es un marine con retro, ¿vale? Así que es un marine de asalto, de estos de tal, que se rumoreaban, que hemos hablado, ¿no? De ellos. Entonces, pues por ahí podrían ir. Voy a ir poniendo, ya sabéis, las clásicas notitas que quedan aquí todavía unos minutos. Y voy a ir poniendo las notas correspondientes a cada uno de ellos. A ver qué podría ser cada uno. Vale, voy a coger esta amarilla. Vale, voy a poner AUS, bueno, 40k o Kill Team. Yo creo que esta última que hemos hablado, 40k o Kill Team, es, ¿no? Vale, no sé si ponerlo en blanco, que yo creo que se va a ver bien. En blanco. Vale. Yo optaría que la de arriba, como digo, es Necrones, Kill Team. La de aquí abajo, esta es Tou, pero vamos, fijísimo. ¿Vale? Ahora, esta opa, esta de aquí abajo es, opa, ¿qué pasa aquí? No, déjame copiar esto. La de Noctánimas es AOS. Vamos a poner AOS mejor, porque suele ser así, ¿no? AOS. He perdido el cursor. Vale, yo creo que esta es Herejía de Horus. Vale, esta sería Herejía de Horus. Vale. Esto puede ser Nanocaos, puede ser AOS o Underworlds, ¿no? O Underworlds, porque ya sabemos que puede salir una banda perfectamente. Y ahora, la de arriba, esto yo creo que es 40k porque estos son Votan. Sí, estos son Votan. ¿Vale? 40k Votan. Y ahora aquí esto, no tengo ni idea, la última abajo. Yo lo siento mucho, la última abajo no tengo ni idea. Bueno, este es o Tou, el Silvano, que a mí me parece primero que vaya a ser de Tou, el Silvano, o de Underworlds por aquellos que todavía tienen esperanza los Kurnosi. Yo cero esperanzas, así os lo digo, ¿vale? Pero claro, si tenemos esto en cuenta, ¿vale? El Marine, que podría ser Death Watch, y así tenemos las dos de Kill Team, ¿vale? 40k. Fijaos lo que voy a hacer, ¿eh? Voy a quitar del Silvano Tou y lo voy a poner Underworlds. Y aquí, ojo a la jugada, ¿eh? Claro, es que no, es que este sería... no, pero es que podría ser. Uno podría ser de Black Library, ¿sabes? Este podría ser de un libro, ¿sabes? Voy a poner. Pero ya por descarte total, por si acaso, ¿sabes? Black Library, libros. Voy a subir un poquito la imagen, que se me ha quedado un poquito pequeña. ¿Eh? Pero se me queda ahí así. Podría ser fake, ojo. Muy bien, como dice Tomás. Es un Silvano muy Tou. Es que yo lo veo 100% Tou. El casco así, tal y cual, lo veo super Tou. Y la cornamenta esa lo veo para All World, la veo de Fantasy, pero vamos. El de abajo a la izquierda, el Dreadnought de Nanocaos. No lo veo tanto. Es que el Dreadnought de Nanocaos lo veo más metálico y esto lo veo como con plumas, ¿no? No sé. Y esto no lo veo cañones, como dijo Balra que iba a tener las manitas de cañones. ¿Cuántas dudas? ¿Cuántas dudas? Es que cuántas dudas, cuántas dudas. Hay murciélago, un bicho volador para el Discord. Mira el Discord. Voy a mirar el Discord. Ah, vale, vale, que esto se crece más. ¡Wow, lo, lo! Claro, claro, claro. Voy a quitar esta. No, mierda. Tengo que... mierda. Esto ha venido tan de repente. Vale, claro, que hay un play ahí para acá y... Claro, es que si empezamos ahora a poner cosas y ahora aparecen cuernos, en vez de lo de Votan, lo que tenía puesto como Votan parecen cuernos, ¿vale? Pongo la imagen. No me pase la imagen. Se me ha quedado esto pillado. A ver, ahí está, ¿vale? Ahí veis la imagen. ¿Veis la imagen ahí? Voy a intentar hacerla más grande. Vale, ahora confirmado que el de arriba a la derecha es Kill Team. Bueno, Kill Team es Necrones, que va a ser para Kill Team. Yo creo que ese ya no hay que... Yo creo que ese no hay que decirlo de otra manera. Y ahora, el murciélago, eso sí que podría ser para fake. El murciélago. Y el de Botan ahora me mosquea, porque es que lo otro de ahí parece un cuerno. Antes sí que veía que iba a ser un este para tal, pero ahora con eso... Uf. Pero sigo diciendo que va a ser Botan, ¿eh? Un minuto, chavales. No nos hagamos más daño, los cuernos iban parados. Me dice Rusan, dice Rusan, ¿no? Dice, me ha dicho un colega que es Sicilia Zoria, de sus ganas. Sí, entonces, si vamos de arriba de arriba a la izquierda, yo diría Botan, Nanocaos, Mechanicus, Elfos Silvanos de Tou, Necrones, el vampirito no lo sé, pues, diría Fek, ¿vale? El murcielaguito, pero vas a ver. El bicho ese no tengo ni idea. Luego tiraríamos por... Bueno, el vampiro, ojo, Black Library, la mujer, la vampiresa esta que ha salido el libro este, que estaban con el libro, cuidado, ¿eh? Cuidado, ¿eh? Cuidado, ¿eh? Bueno, el bicho ese no lo sabemos. Kenry, ¿no? Reyes funerarios, un héroe para reyes funerarios, un héroe en Octánimas ahí, un marine con mochila retro, así que eso debería ir para Kill Team, yo creo, para contra el del otro. Eh, y, y la última no sé. La última no sé. ¡Ey, que esto suena! Voy cambiando. Espera. ¿Por qué? Ahí está esto. Voy poniendo esto ahí. Máxima potencia, 720. Si está muy alto lo que dicen, me lo comentáis. Si está muy bajo también, ¿vale? Comentádmelo, por favor. Pero esto empieza. Voy a subirlo yo un poquito. Bueno, ya sabéis que tienen al coleguita este comentando cosillas. Bueno, que esto ya empieza, chavales. ¿Alguien en la porra puso reyes funerarios? Yo sí puse, bueno, no puse un héroe, puse el libro de campaña y héroe. Yo no escucho, ay, que cago, perdón, no se escucha nada al directo, cierto, tenéis razón. Ahora lo escucharéis. Ahora sí que lo escucharéis, perdón.
Bear with us and we'll do our best. We're aware the chat is still filling up. There's people flooding in from around the world.
Que no había que lo suelo quitar lo del audio del escritorio.
Which is let us know where in the world you're from. I do it every time and I always enjoy the answer. And while you start
bueno, ya sabéis que suelen hacer la típica primera pregunta de dónde sois, tal y cual. No suele ser grabado porque ahora como tienen al tío este que hace las preguntillas y tal y cual, que en el chat, pues ahí estaría.
So I've got some white scars on my table at the moment, got them all sprayed up. And I've started painting a jet bike, but using some of the Horus Heresy transfers on the side, so it looks very nice.
Repito, si creéis que está muy alto, me lo decís, ¿eh? Yo intentaré no hablar cuando venga la presentación tal y cual, y luego intentaré pillar alguna cosilla y traducirla.
I think that has brought a lot of people to Fenris, that particular box set. How about yourself? Have been doing any
cool
Warhammer?
Well, I'm glad you asked. The short answer is yes. I bought myself a new kill team.
Queremos escuchar la música épica de ustedes. Vale, eso sí, subiré ahí en ese momento un poquito el volumen, ¿vale?
I've always used things from my main army. The other thing, it's only went to the Throne of Skulls with my good friend Damien O'Byrne, and we brought home a gold medal, which was super fun to play so many games of the Middle-earth Strategy Battle game together with so many lovely.
Estáis perdiendo 3 minutos para enseñarme cosas de verdad.
Who'd flown all the way across to join in from the US, and they're now hiking, backpacking around the mountains somewhere in Spain.
Unexpected journey.
Literally.
Perdiendo tiempo de verdad para enseñarme.
Wherever you are. It was really fun. Thank you to all my opponents who played and then thought I wasn't such a horrible person to play against. Always nice. So, Sai, where are people from?
Oh, all over the place. It's wonderful. So we've got folks from Australia, Canada, USA, Spain, pretty much all over the globe. Someone's claiming they're even from Canada. I'm not sure the truth of that one.
Only the very best among us could possibly come from such an estimable place. Awesome. Right. So, as I said before, we've got about 90 minutes worth of like wall-to-wall.
¿Cómo?
Big summer
¿Una hora y media?
We should probably look to begin.
Acabo de escuchar 90 minutes.
Raph, punch the first video.
So just before we go in, the new guy,
Ojo,
he's a little
una hora y
bit
media.
peculiar, but just bear with, okay?
Okay, cool.
A ver qué les pasa a esto. Primer vídeo. Bueno, aquí sí que hablo un poquito. Ahí está. Esto mola. ¿Qué hace? Mola. Molan.
Just two little dudes on a road trip.
Me ha gustado mucho los dos héroes que han puesto al principio. Bueno, el héroe principal, el que tiene nombre, y el otro que estaba así.
This is the largest
no sé si
release
es un
for the Leagues of
robot.
Votan since the initial release of the army. This is a huge expansion, all in plastic for that
All in
force.
plastic,
There is
dice,
new
nos
heavy
ha jodido
infantry,
Mayo,
there's some new
cuando tienes que
artillery,
decir
there's
all
loads
in
of new,
plastic,
really
dice, me
characterful
Horus,
characters to add to the army. There's some new
Yeah, not so-
vehicles, all sorts of stuff. So there's the kind of shot of the full army there, but let's take a closer look at some of the specific models.
Me chocan los robots tochos de tamaño humano.
So the Arcanist
me chocan,
Evaluator.
pero
Yeah,
los
so
otros molan.
within the
no
Leagues of
tanto.
Votan, they're not
Ese es
afraid
un
of
robot engine,
developing
por cierto.
technology and expanding their understanding. And so an Arcanist Evaluator is kind of,
Está guay.
aside from the ordinary kin within
Este
sort of
es el
the war bands
arcanista.
that operate, he's a member of the science guilds that are responsible for new technologies, and he brings to battle an experimental weapon in the sort of closing phases of development.
puso una
This
porra
is a
Votan?
transmatter
Voy a
inverter.
comprobarlo.
It's a cool name.
Yeah, it's got 4 fire modes, and on the highest one, it literally triggers
Voy a quitar
lethal
cosas de por
atomic
aquí que tenía.
transformations. What that means is death.
Yeah, so he's taken out his new experimental weapon basically to the battlefield to see if it is, as he suspects, powerful
Yo
enough
tenía
to knock
Votan.
Space Marines, tanks, or Tyranid monsters, whatever he happens
Mi
to come up
Rito tenía
against.
que
Pretty much yes.
ser
Pretty
Votan.
Pretty much yes to all of the
Víctor tenía
above.
Votan,
He's
José,
not part of the
vale.
official sort of Leagues of Votan military hierarchy, so he doesn't join your
Ah,
units
una
necessarily,
salida
but he kind of hangs
interesante,
around
Votan,
in your army
una
next to them,
salida
and he's got kind
con
of low
mandanga,
upward
está
ability
guay,
if he's
está
near
guay,
your infantry, that sort of thing. But a very useful, characterful little model to
Dice
add
Andrés, en
into
40
your
calles
Leagues
en
of
el
Votan force,
Johnny
and a nice
Tesima
way of
sobre
kind of
estilo de
showing
en
the
plastic. Es que sobra
some
a
of the
saco.
kind of
Cuando
lore
lo
and
tienes que
culture
decir,
of the army
canalla,
as well, of the Leagues of Votan.
es
Yeah, it's a little bit
energía
of a
Horus y en
glimpse
todo.
behind the sort of the curtain, isn't it? And you can see some really cool things that sort of key into that. He's got these optics on his weapon that you
Ya,
can
ya,
almost
este
imagine
no me
sort
apasiona
of
mucho.
recording the data from the results.
That's a
Eso
very
a
cool head
vosotros.
as well, kind of mad
¿Os gusta
scientist
este?
vibe going on.
Yeah, and if you wanted to, there's a separate, a different head that you can have.
El
which is
arcanista
helmeted, or if you
este,
just
el
fancy some
evaluador
health and safety
arcanista.
protocols, then you know,
Absolutely.
that's the way to go. Next up, my absolute standout favourite. This is the thing that made
Este
me
me
march into
mola.
Warhammer World
El
yesterday and
estratega.
buy some Leagues
Este
of
sí que
Votan
me
models
mola.
for myself. The Memnir
Está ahí
strategist.
medio...
Ironkin, those of you who are fans of the League of Votan will understand that the Ironkin are essentially-
Abominable intelligences.
well, not in their mind, but they're artificial intelligences which
Ay, pa, que lo
they
sé,
hold
no
an
sé
equal
qué es.
position within Votan society. There's a CU unit inside of
Vale,
each of them.
el robot
and
este
that's
sí
sort
que
of
me
within
mola.
that iron dome that is normally
Este
his head.
mola.
The first really cool thing about this model is that you see the little
Además han dicho que es
noodly
uno de
things that
esos
are on,
robots de esas
in the
inteligencias
Imperium, we call them
artificiales que tienen
mechadendrites, right?
esos y tal y
These
cual.
cables that come out of him. Each of those is an additional CU unit.
Muy
so he's the
justitos, pero
combined
cumplen. Hombre,
intelligence
este
of
mola.
multiple
Este que yo
iron
decía
kin,
que era para el
essentially, and he
Mechanicus,
uses that
al final
to
es
enormous effect
es
in
League of
terms of
Votan y
strategy
se
and tactics on the
lleva
battlefield,
otro
directing
rumor
the
engine,
efforts of the kin
¿vale?
around.
El trasto que tiene arriba a la
into a
izquierda es
ball
otro
as
rumor
well,
engine.
which is known
Joder,
as
que lo
yield
estoy pulsando
points,
sin querer.
which we'll talk a little bit more about later. And most importantly, he looks amazing.
It's a very, very cool miniature, isn't it? Really characterful. I think also got some spare arms on the front there, which is holding on to
bonus
his
arms.
holding onto his little data pad. He's tapping away on there,
Sí,
giving
esta es
orders
la
to
que
all the
decía.
various
Esta es la que decía
kin
yo
and
que era
Leagues of
de
Votan units across
Mechanicus.
the battlefield.
Que no sé por
And
qué
his
me
main
parecía que
pair
era un
of arms
servidor,
he's used to
lo de
sort of
arriba a la
hold
izquierda.
in his contemplative
Bueno,
state,
un
which is
cráneo,
the
un
exact
servocráneo
pose
de
that I
estos.
have when I'm considering my movement phase.
Y
in Warhammer
sí.
40,000.
And if you want to dazzle your friends with
Así que
some
en
knowledge,
la esta había dos,
the
en las
array he's
siluetas
got on
había
his
dos.
back is called a cognitar mantle, and that's where he gets like his extra brain power from.
Heihachi, el anterior,
sensational.
dice Andrés. Pues sí,
Speaking
tenía el
of
pelo de Heihachi.
Ironkin, these are a new unit of Ironkin. They are called the Steeljacks.
Los robots estos Ironkin así.
Yeah, so this is the Ironkin
estos
Steeljacks. They are especially
no me apasionan,
kind of more warrior type of Ironkin. A lot of the Ironkin are fairly sort of helpful. They're kind of
they
default
fill normal
yeah,
civilian roles in
their
society.
default state is a sort of friendly,
Estos
affable.
no me apasiona porque rompe el esquema
helpers for
de
the Leagues of Votan
de
for kin.
tamaño.
These are a much more warlike programming, so they march out actively into battle seeking
Son
conflict.
robots, los Ironkin son
they
robots.
are in very
Lo acaban
large
de
suits of
decir,
armor, so
son
they stand
inteligencias
kind of,
artificiales
almost twice
tal
the
cual, que
height
tienen
of
un
a
estatus
kin or a
especial
League of
dentro de
Votan
la
warrior.
sociedad, creo.
And
Algo
they
así
have
creo
got some
que ha
pretty
dicho.
decent weaponry as well. You can kit them out in a variety of different ways. You can either go
Perdón por
combat
decir
leading,
robots,
this is
pero
an
es que
example
desde
there,
chico yo
where you can have like
diciendo robots
concussion
siempre
fists
cuando
and
sea un robot
bolt guns, or you can go
es
with
que
a
no puedo
ranged
evitarlo.
option. In game terms, they work a little bit like Wraithguard, I suppose, is the closest approximate. So very durable unit, quite powerful weaponry, very good for doing things like moving on to an objective and trying to hold on to it.
Que
and
duradera,
fighting off enemy
con
counterattacks and
armadura,
Yeah,
con
I mean,
armamento
in
pesado, bla bla bla.
real
Vale.
terms, heavily armed, heavily armored, extremely dangerous unit. You can see the leader in the squad.
Andrés sí le gustan los robots ácidos esto porque ya sabemos todos que si puede llevarme la contraria lo hará.
He's got a plasma sword. Guy on the front's got a concussion fist. Great new addition to the Leagues of Votan army, I think it's fair to say. We're not done. There's more.
Un pieza de artillería que es normal, ¿vale? Que tenga pieza de artillería.
From that sort of rogue trader era. Do you remember mole mortars for squat?
Very well, yes.
So these are sort of inverse artillery, rather than lobbing a shot high above the enemy. They fire those mole shells that you can see down at the bottom, deep into the ground. They burrow in on the enemy and emerge in a trench line, in a bunker, and just blow
no está mal, es un morteros, ¿no?
Each one of these is a really lovely sort of dire armor in their own right as well, so you can see the kin there working with the iron kin, loading up the artillery. You can see one of them there with his little scanner, almost directing the mole as it kind of buries underground towards the enemy fortifications. Obviously, it's a powerful piece in game. You've got all sorts of
pero bueno, el otro que lleva
nice kind of
la
ways
mitad,
this will bolster your Leagues of Votan force, which at the moment maybe doesn't have a huge amount of very long range artillery.
Artillería de largo alcance.
It's a great kit, really.
Awesome. Speaking of the bigger models that are inside this launch, we have the Capricus.
El nuevo transporte, moto, como queréis llamarlo, mola, esto está guay. Sigue muy el estilo parecido, ¿no? A la maquinilla, a la Brown esta que había.
A transport vehicle.
El triciclo.
So this is the carrier. So it's a smaller gun. It's got less other weapons on it, and you can see the stowage bag for the crew that will ride in the back. Whichever you take, essentially this is enabling your Honekin to get around from A to B and hold the ground that they're taking.
Yeah, so it adds a bit of mobility into your Leagues of Votan force. It carries 5 models, so it works a little bit like the other kind of Leagues of Votan transports, where you pick one of your units, it can split into 2 groups of 5. 5 of them can ride around in one of these. If you've got 2 of the transports, you can obviously ride them around in 2 of the transports. And as you say, I don't know, you can choose between either having the transport option, or you can just have all the guns and have a fast-moving fire support unit.
Yeah, for me this is stunning.
Bueno, diferentes montajes, ¿no? De armamento nos están enseñando para...
There's some really lovely little touches on this. The stowage bags are really nice at the back. I like that you can build this with 2 Ironkin as well. So if you want an Ironkin pilot and an Ironkin gunner, you can build them like that. Fans of Ironkin generally, there is a lot of Ironkin in this Leagues of Votan release.
Absolutely so. There's also a new combat patrol for the Leagues of Votan on the way.
Patrol en la que no viene nada nuevo, pero bueno,
if you're new, let me explain what they do. It's a fantastic way to start an army. Or to bolster an army if you've already got one. This one really focuses on those sort of kin bands that make up the mainstay of the portion.
No sé, a nivel visual está guay, porque los bichos esos a mí me molan, ¿vale? Todos los que están presentes, justo son los que me molan. Los otros que eran como los Berserkers, de los Votan no me apasionaban.
So it's all good stuff. A couple of boxes of these and then a couple of the new units and you've got an army basically.
Todos estos sí que me molaban.
Now,
y el héroe este me mola. Ay, que tiene un caparazón, vale, sí, que tiene lo de arriba es un...
Bury Agneson. Eddie?
So Bury Agneson is the last survivor of a Leagues of Votan clan which has been consumed by the encroaching Tyranid menace. He is known as the Thrice Devoured. The Tyranid monster has actually eaten this guy, but that wasn't enough to keep him down. He clawed his way out of its gullet, climbed his way back out to safety 3 times apparently, and now goes across the galaxy, across the kin warband as a roving Tyranid.
La piedra no está mal, la lanza. La piedra no está inclinada como hacia adelante, pues le da una sensación un poquito de tirar para adelante. No sé si pega mucho lo de llevar el caparazón tiránido ahí en la chepa y tal y cual, pero dentro del trasfondo de los Votan, etcétera, porque no tengo absolutamente ni idea del trasfondo de los Votan.
But he's also a lone operative, so you can imagine this guy advancing either on his own or alongside, kind of behind your forces, and swooping in on the big enemy monsters and stuff that get forward to threaten your battle line.
Bueno, parece ser que va para matar bichos tochos.
He's a member of, he's the only member now of an organization called the Emberg Aegir Block, which is one of the Leagues of Votan. Literally wiped out down to the very last kin, which is this guy. And so he's so bitter, his whole life is devoted now to just hunting down the Tyranid menace and supporting other leagues to stop the same thing happening to them. And you see that played out on his model. He's got this sort of belt buckle, which very much looks like he's sort of taken some affectations from the Tyranids. He's got what looks like, we've been having quite a discussion about this, a Tyranid Prime.
Andrés, han dicho
I think it's a Tyranid
90
Prime that he's got
minutos.
over the top of his head.
Yeah.
There's a nice little
He
nod in this model
escuchado
as well
al Adam decir 90 minutos.
the idea at some point that the squats were eaten by the Tyranids.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this guy kind of goes, well, yeah, they were eaten by the Tyranids, but also they clawed their way out
Yo
again.
creo que hay tiempo.
There is a little bit of truth to that sort of
Pero vamos, eso es lo que me ha dado la
outdated
sensación.
understanding.
Bueno, la portada obviamente el códex que tiene que
And all
salir.
this obviously will be supported with Codex Leagues of Votan, an all-new Codex for Warhammer 40,000, which contains. I've had quite a while to read this
Rusán,
week.
sí, es que va a ser
It's
90
full of
minutos de preview.
spankingly good lore. It's got great rules and art. It explains all of the new things, obviously. In terms of rules,
Bueno, lo típico
there's
que nos
too much to
dicen
go
de
into
los
in
codes,
any
que
real
expanden el
detail here,
trasfondo,
but I
que
think
vienen
a
todas las
couple would be
unidades
those
nuevas,
yield points,
bla,
which is the sort of
actualizado, porque
army-wide mechanic which
sí,
underpins them.
estos
Absolutely, yeah. So
tienen todo
yield
en
points
index, yo qué
effectively
sé, como irán,
changes
¿vale?
the way your army works over the course of the
Creo que
game,
todavía
and
tienen
it
index
works
estos
in the
tíos,
way
¿no?
that
No sé.
the Leagues of Votan approach
Así que sí, ¿no?
acquisition effectively. So early on in the game, when you haven't got very many yield points, you're getting bonuses for attacking enemy units
Y un
on
poquito
objectives
explicación
for the most part across your
de
army,
cómo
and then
funciona
later on,
esto.
once you've acquired yield points, you get bonuses for having your own units on objectives, so they get better at defending them, better bonuses for their
Bonus por
defense. That sort
objetivos
of
y
thing.
no sé
Yeah,
qué
so
de
it
eso, pero bueno.
encourages you to play in that very
Que
sort of
eso en el
acquisition
artículo
focused
supongo
way
que lo
that the
dirán un
Leagues of
poquito
Votan
mejor.
work.
And it's a really great mechanic, right? Because it's exactly how you win games of Warhammer 40,000.
mecánica
Early
del
on,
ejército.
you kick people off objectives. Later on, you hold on to the objectives. So
And
it's
some of the
powerful.
new units that we've shown and some of the units that already exist in the Votan army now have rules that key into that. For example, the Memnir Strategist just lets you increase or decrease your yield score by 1 each turn.
Yeah.
So really sort of thoughtfully put in so that this guy who's overseeing the total sort of tactical function of your army can just go nudge.
Bueno, con esto ya han terminado.
We should show some of the
La-
models.
Let's do it, yeah.
So
So-
we've got some in front
Bueno,
of us.
enseñan
We're
las
very lucky to
miniaturas
be
aquí
allowed
en
to
vivo
put
y
our
en
paws
directo.
on the heavy metal miniatures. So there'll be
That's
some,
right.
a bit of sort of scale comparison here, but here you can see this is the Arcanist, and then you've got the Memnir. They're like normal
Sí, venga,
Votan
enseña una más grande, una más pequeña para ver la comparativa.
Anakin is about
Eso
the
está
same
guay,
sort of proportion as those.
guay que
And here you can
me
see
quita a
just
mí un poco
how
trabajo,
sort of
¿vale? Cuando ponen las
much bigger,
comparativas.
the Steel
Estos que
Jacks
tienen ya
are.
tamaño
I
prácticamente
think your
marino, yo
comparison that
creo.
you made to compare them to Wraithguard is really quite fair.
Yeah, they're about the
actually.
same size as a Wraithguard. It's kind of in that ballpark of kind of medium heavy infantry. This is the new artillery piece.
La
It's
artillería.
maybe not like as big as something like an Imperial Guard tank or something like that, but
Hombre, es una pieza de artillería.
compact,
Dice, no es
mobile,
tan
that
grande
sort of
como
thing,
un tanque,
fitting
la
in with
pieza
the
de
aesthetic
artillería,
of the rest
claro.
of the Leagues of Votan.
Es
You
una
can
pieza
sort
de
of
artillería,
imagine
no
its
es un
starting
tanque,
life
cabrón.
as a piece of mining equipment, and they've sort of evolved it into a weapon.
You can definitely see sort of some of those origins. I just want to draw some attention to some of the super cool bits on it. This guy here, you can see over his shoulder, he's got like a data slate. You've got this sort of, I don't know, like loading hatch that you can model open or
Sí,
close.
eso ya lo hemos visto
On
en las
this
imágenes,
side,
cómo
you've got
está
a case which has more of the
Iron King
shells. You
este
get spare shells to put on
poniendo
on
la
bases.
munición, recargando la munición, el otro
It's,
con la
it's just a really thoughtfully
tableta
designed,
para
very exciting kit.
controlar la distancia
So
y todo esto.
we should show
Eso
more
lo
though,
hemos
because
visto
this is
ahora.
by no means the end of
Esta
it.
ya la
Absolutely,
broma.
we've got the Capricus here,
Bueno,
so
venga.
just make some space.
El
on
nuevo
the table so
transporte.
you can have a look at this guy. So this is your new vehicle. This is the Defender pattern, which is the gun version. And as you can see there's a little bit of space, not quite enough space for transport on this one, but there is one which is a transport vehicle. But I really like the Ironkin on this. It's actually
He's got like a tiny little chair.
He's quite small, yeah, because they wouldn't fit a full-sized kin
Y
in
el
there.
Iron
So
King
they've
que
given
entra,
a tiny
que no
Ironkin,
entra
actually
del todo,
perfectly
que entra
designed for the
poquito,
role.
claro, es un robot,
Absolutely,
no tiene
and
por qué estar
I guess
todo
the
dentro.
star of the show himself in many ways.
There he is.
Aigni
Y el héroe.
So the
Burrison.
thrice devoured there. So he's still
El
kind
héroe
of
que
kin
entre la
sized,
lanza
but you can
está
have,
subido a
kind of have a
la
look at
roca
this model
táctica y
here
tal,
that
pues
so much of
obviamente
him
es
is now
bastante
bionic,
rápido,
right?
¿no?
So he's been chewed up and
Bionic fingers that do it. for
yeah,
me.
chewed up
Really
and
cool.
spat out so many times that like his arm, bits of his arms, there, most of his face, perhaps a kind of unspecified amount of his body has probably been dissolved by horrible Tyranid bioacid in their stomach and things. But he's still kicking. And it also shows
No,
how
lo llaman tres
durable
veces
the kin
devorado, que es
are,
lo que ha
right? So
dicho, que esta no
they're
es como
specially
de los
designed by
tiranios,
their
tiene la cara
Votan
de,
to be
de los
durable
ácidos
to
y tal y
endure kind of the
cual,
most
un
hostile
poquito,
conditions.
por eso lleva
He's
la
a good
máscara
example
así
of how
y
that's kind
tal.
of manifesting.
Yeah, it's really cool, isn't it?
Y ponían el
I think
el
we've covered the
tres
league
veces
pretty
devorado, ¿no?
thoroughly,
The
right?
Thrice
Yeah.
Devoured.
Before we move on, we're going to go to the old world
Sí.
next. A couple of sort of housekeeping bits. The first one would be, we're going to return to the 41st Millennium at the end of the preview. So, particularly if you like Kill Team, but also there's some other things for other factions
sí,
as
lo
well.
sé, pero ya es
Do
mucho
hang around
tiempo.
if you like
Tienes
Warhammer
razón,
40,000. The other thing I would say is that lots of the people who mentioned that they were joining us from around the world, you can interact with our social teams. We have
que sí, que podemos escribir al tío de...
our various sort of
bueno, que han
social media
abierto
places.
las...
Here they are. If you want to sort of get involved in the conversation in the language which suits you, go knock yourself out.
Me voy a poner
they're really
en el
lovely
Japón.
people. They're really engaged
Porque
and want to, you know, sort of make sure that you get to hear about Warhammer in the language that suits you. So, and if you speak English or you're willing to take a pot shot at it, these are our socials as well. So please come and join the conversation.
Un poquito de publicidad
Time
de
for a
sus
little
redes
bit of
sociales, que no hace
Warhammer.
falta, pero bueno, no pasa nada.
So,
Ahí está, mira,
first
All
up,
War.
we have
Pues son dos
a
héroes.
brand new unit for the Tomb Kings of Khemri. This is a new
nuevas.
multi-part plastic kit that makes the Royal Heralds.
Plástico.
The easiest way to describe these is that you have a battle standard bearer,
Multiparte.
and you have a new hero / lord. You could make that and call it a Tomb Prince or a Tomb King. I think it's up to you.
No sé si ha dicho que es príncipe o rey, o no estaba seguro, pero bueno, aquí está el...
If you fancy him like standing around in one of your big regiments,
Pero aquí lo pone que se llaman heraldos reales.
Go for the on-foot version. There's some options in terms of head things as well.
Es plástico, Rusam.
Battle standard
Lo
bearers
han
are
dicho.
key to Warhammer armies. If you play the old world, you'll know.
Yeah, I love this battle standard. That kind of weird scorpion. Both the paint scheme and the model itself are very cool. As you say, this is multi-part as well, so you can swap and change if you want the faster one, if you've got lots of
Así que
chariots.
supongo que se podrán cambiar ciertas
You can
cosas.
mix them in. I would imagine there's a fair bit of customizability between this kit and some of the other.
Lo llaman
two key
heraldos
bits as well.
reales.
Yeah,
Han dicho
not
que es
just
rey
within
y
this
tal,
kit
pero
itself,
yo no
but
lo
also
veo
I
como
think
rey,
things
pero
like
bueno,
the,
no sé qué pasa aquí.
Tomb Guard, for example. So this isn't the only new plastic kit coming for the Tomb Kings of Khemri. We also have the
mira, más
Lich
cositas.
Priests, who are
Estos
fundamental to the
son Lich
workings,
Priests.
literally, of
Bueno,
the
no
Tomb
están
Yeah, you
mal.
absolutely need Lich Priests in your army if you've got a Tomb King's army.
Me
Your
pesa un
army only
poquito que
woke up because you
sean
had Lich Priests.
la
It's
pose
their
igual
job to
para
kind of
los
keep
dos.
the magic flowing that keeps your army marching forward.
Vale.
Again, this is a multi-part kit. There's some lovely options on these. You can see they're perhaps
Multi-part
a little
kit,
bit
pero
less
esta vez no ha
dead
dicho plástico,
than some
creo.
of the other Khemri,
Yeah,
but they're still
they've got
very
some desiccated skin hanging
definitely
on.
desiccated. Definitely spent far too long in the desert inside a pyramid somewhere. I love the vulture on the top of the staff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Me estoy cayendo a ver si dice lo
thanks,
plástico, pero no se lo he
for bringing
escuchado.
that back. It's a really lovely image of these sort of animated creatures that have sort of come alive.
Yeah.
Bueno,
with,
¿sabes lo que digo de lo de
I
la
think you were
pose?
saying
Es
as well, that looks like
prácticamente la
it's right out of
misma.
a piece of
Cabeza
Warhammer
para
art.
atrás,
Yeah,
brazo
the mounted guy in
levantado,
particular, I
así
think,
en la
they're
misma
both exquisite,
posición.
but the
El otro
mounted
tirado
guy,
para atrás
from sort of
sujetando
the
el
perfect angle, he just looks
estandarte o
like
el
the
báculo, lo
artwork,
que sea.
and I mean that is the highest possible compliment.
Una pose muy parecida, ¿sabes?
Thinking veterans
Yo,
might be
ese es el
wondering,
punto negativo
if
que le
that's,
veo.
extra armor on the skeletal steed. It certainly is. We'll
Pero,
talk a little bit
pero el
more
resto
about that
está
in a
bien, el
moment.
resto está bien, el
But yes,
resto
you
está
can have a
genial.
barded skeletal steed, which I think might be quite useful if you're used to terrible armor saves in your Tomb King's army. I guess we can talk about that now. If we go across to
Cuenta como
also
segunda
coming
wave,
out
pues
is a
mira,
new
Arcane Journal,
The
The War of Cetra's Fury.
Cetra,
Así
the
que
imperishable, is
tiene
very,
pinta de
very
que sí
angry.
que
His
cuenta
lands have
como
been
segunda
defiled. He
wave.
feels like he owns everything, and he is launching a full-scale invasion northward into the sort of border region between the Empire and Bretonnia, sort of known as the Vaults. It's also inhabited by some dwarfs, and you've got sort of dispossessed barons and nobles from both the Empire and Bretonnia, and so they are forced to rally in defense of a full-scale invasion of the
Vale,
undead
pues libro
from
campaña
Khemri.
en el que
There are
meten un
rules for
poquito
sort of
unidades nuevas.
allied forces, playing smaller games in like a timely and interesting fashion. It's just packed, and it's a really
Empieza en
cool
segunda
way
vuelta, sí, sí.
of looking at the lore of the
A
old
base de
world
libros
and
de
they're
campaña.
sort of explaining the things that took place in this
Bueno,
particular part
o
of
quizás
Warhammer
segunda
time.
vuelta
It's
o,
great to get some new lore for the
o
old
una
world as well.
campaña
Yeah,
un poquito
absolutely.
larga,
The
pero
team
típica
diving
campaña
into
de
the
final de edición.
opportunities that the world allows them to have.
And see what I mean about the artwork, right? Sort of the guy in the center, like it just in this piece, it really just screams the imagery that we saw before. I love
Hombre,
it.
desde luego como proxy
There's
para,
another Arcane Journal coming, which is equally
para
exciting. This happens
Neferata,
at the
pues
other
sí, podría
side, quite
ser
literally, of the
los
region
liches
in the old world, known as the old
nigromantes
world. This is
perfectamente.
Dawn of the Storm Dragon, and it features a bold strategic move made by Miao Ying, who's the lady pictured in the center. She's
Ese libro es tapa dura,
one of the
eso
children of the
parece,
Dragon
en
Emperor,
la imagen parece.
and she learns of the Chaos Invasion, which is happening in the north, and is concerned that it's going to gain too much traction, so loads ships full of Grand
Vale, este debe ser el segundo
soldiers and sails
Arcane
to the
Journal, ¿no?
Empire,
Que
sets up an
decían,
enclave
¿no?
and
Para
helps
la
to
la
try and
princesa
stymie
y
this
las
Chaos
unidades
Invasion.
separadas de
In
tal y
real
cual.
terms,
¿Vale?
that's A
No
cool
es que vaya a
story,
sacar
and B,
unidades,
there's,
sino que es
there's
el
rules in there for all
segundo
sorts of things,
Arcane Journal
including
que ya hablaron
the
de él en el
opportunity to
Warhammer
have an
Community.
allied force of Grand Cathay and the Empire of Man.
That's exciting. That's exciting.
That is
We've
very
never
Un
had anything
poquito
like that before. really, have we?
Cathay y
Yeah, so,
Imperio,
and I
¿no?
think this is
Supongo que
sort
para
of,
juntar y Y para
great
tener
example
unidades
of
de
the really sort of bold
otro
and
ejército y
exciting
tal
things
cual
that
para
the studio
complementar.
team responsible for the Old World are doing. They clearly love the setting. They want to explore it in really rich and vibrant detail.
Sounds great.
Absolutely.
No han puesto vídeo ni nada, han cogido, lo han soltado
we
así.
should throw over to Question Corner and see if Simon's got any
preguntitas.
questions for us.
What have you got for us, Simon?
Loads and loads of questions. I think the majority of them are focusing on the leagues of Votan. There's
La
loads
mayoría
of fun
están
toys
centrados
coming out there,
en
of course.
esto.
So,
Ojo,
the
que si
first
no
one is
anuncian
actually
Neposidanos
about
es que es
adjustment
Kurnozi.
tokens.
Ahí tienes, José, toda la razón.
Obviously, we've got the yield
Como
rules.
sea Kurnozi,
All about adjustment
Zack no está aquí.
So the
Zack
focus
está ahí
in terms
que le
of
da
the army
un
mechanic is those yield points that we talked about before.
problema en el
It's
corazón.
always good when we get a question which is like, can you tell me the really grainy, like granular rule things? Because the answer is no. We got 90 minutes to rail through as much stuff as we can, as fast as we can.
Vamos que va a ser Kurnozi. Bueno. Caja versus Enanos del Caos contra Kurnozi.
But you're in for some subtle changes in the way the leagues of Votan work, and it's quite.
Tendría sentido también,
We've got another
¿no?
one which were the funky drill shell tokens on the Chthonian Earthshaker. What do they represent?
So I do have a really short and candid answer for that. You saw them on the little base beside.
Zack le da
It
algo,
comes,
pero
designed
vamos.
to two of those.
Pelele, ¿sabes? Se vuelve loquísimo.
If I remember correctly, and don't like sue me, internet, if I get it wrong.
Si son de Underworlds,
you
apruebo
put them down
seguro.
alongside the Earthshaker when you deploy, and
Aprobar
you
vas a
can remove
aprobar
one
casi
from
todo,
the game to give yourself
no
rerolls
preocupéis.
and rerolls as you're playing.
Lo importante es sacar buena
kind of
nota.
fun. It's like it represents something, and you take it off and you spend it.
Yeah, so the unit is sort of set up so that they have some specialist shells, so that'd be like representing the unit being like, right, we're going to use one of the big ones now. This is the important shell.
Era una segunda hipoteca. Hombre, si son solo de Underworlds, no le da para una
Probably got
segunda
time for one more, so
hipoteca.
let's go with how many models can the Capricus carrier transport?
Great question.
It carries 5, so it works a little bit like some of the other Leagues of
Voy a
Votan
ir poniendo,
transports, where
bueno, voy
you
a ir
take a
buscando
unit
por
of
aquí a ver si van
usually
poniendo los
10s, you
artículos,
split the unit in
sobre
half,
todo por el tema
so 5
de
of them can go
Kenrick,
in
que
that.
ya
If you've got
está.
2 of the transports, you can carry both the units round in those,
Y
or
os
you can leave
hablo.
5 of them back on your baseline and deploy them elsewhere.
Grant, that's good.
Nice one. Thank you. So we'll draw a curtain
Es
on
plástico,
the old world,
los
but we will
leads,
go
¿vale? Es
to the
plástico.
Mortal Realms instead. There's some exciting things for us to
Mortal
talk about
Realms,
here.
ojo.
And let's start with a new battle tome.
Flesh
Or
Eaters.
Death, the Death Grand Alliance. These are the Flesh Eater Courts.
Pues eso tiene pinta de mini, ¿no?
These are the,
Esa portada. Bueno, puede ser un gol
foul and
corriente, ¿no? El estandarte de un gol corriente.
cannibal monstrosities who unfortunately have delusions,
Venga,
quite
enséñame
literally,
mini.
of being
Mini.
noble and elegant and chivalric. And,
No, no digo
the
mini
truth couldn't
rarito,
be sort of
miniatura.
further from that.
Quiero.
Yeah, they absolutely imagine that they are in service to some grand king on perhaps a grand crusade of some sort, or part of a pageant, or a noble feast of some sort, but are in fact horrible, degenerate cannibals, as you say. The new battle tome has all the stuff that you would expect. Lots of new ways to use your army, new magic abilities, new enhancements, changes to some of the way the war scrolls work. So lots of exciting stuff. And perhaps most excitingly, there is a new miniature. On the
Esto
way
es la
to
nueva
accompany them,
miniatura. Uy,
which
uy, uy,
is
qué
the
loco es
High
este.
Falconer Felgrin. So much
mola.
like the rest of the Flesh Eater Court, this guy is under
que
an
Robin
illusion.
Hood.
His particular delusion is that he is a falconer
el alto
in charge
falconero.
of
Vale,
noble
falconero.
and
Felgrin.
wise
Oy,
avian
oy, oy.
creatures, where in
Mola,
fact
mola,
he
mola,
is
mola.
in
Mira,
charge
todo el que
of
acaba
a
de venir
swarm
para
of
ver.
rabid bats. The model is very characterful. Like he's got his kind of weird, crazy hat. He's got
You can
kind
see
of
almost like the vestiges of
Mola,
that
mola el
nobility which
falconero,
is
me
very
gusta.
right. He's got
Me
like a
gusta el
very sort of
falconero.
like huntsman-y style hat on
Yep.
and the tattered robes of a person that might
Ahí
be
con los
performing that duty.
murcielaguitos,
But
tal.
It's got guts hanging off
It's
the
a
trees
very
quite
fun.
well.
It's a very fun miniature. I think in the spinning shot, maybe you can just picture it. But there is a bat that comes
Me
with
gusta
him, which is
mucho que
basically
está ya en el
a token
árbol
that
el-
represents something in the game,
comiendo
where he
cositas.
sends one of his falcons off to spy an enemy unit.
También
and
hay
that will give you
rumor
bonuses
de-
in games,
puede ser,
basically.
no lo
So
sé.
these are the kind of spies, the eyes and ears of the Flesh Eater Courts. And if you direct it to an enemy unit, it can give your squires, your kind of ghouls, bonuses against that enemy unit. You can do things like take away their ward save and
El
get
Rosado
magic
está,
killing,
que es
basically. So
imposible
a very useful
resistirse.
unit to have in your game, and a very characterful model for your army.
Ahora me sale en
There's
grande por la
also
tele.
accompanying
Bueno.
this, release for
Vale, la nueva
Flesh Eater
Spearhead,
Courts, the Channel Watch. This is a
que
new
viene
spearhead,
el
so you can use it
Chosen,
straight in games of Spearhead,
la banda
or you
de
can use this to bulk out, or
Underworlds,
maybe, and you can use
y
this to
dos
bulk out
veces el
your,
kit
existing
de
Flesh Eater
Crypt
Courts
Flyers
army.
y
This is a fast-moving,
para
hard-hitting infantry
pena de
focused,
todos, ¿no?
Spearhead. It's got models
Detrás,
that you'll be
tiene
very
la cabeza
familiar with,
atada.
and the
Vale,
way
vale,
they're
vale,
synergized
bien,
within
bien,
this game, within Spearhead, is really fun. Expect sort of lightning assaults and then using monstrous-sized infantry to sweep the enemy away.
Yeah, also a great start to a larger Age of Sigmar army for Flesh Eater Courts. It combos really nicely with the existing Flesh Eater Courts spearhead. So if you've got that already, you can add this in, and you've basically got most of an army. Yeah, some really good stuff. A couple of the cannibal monkeys in there as well, which
it's what everybody needs, right?
Bien, me ha gustado mucho el Falconer.
Death faction, which is the Nighthawk.
Y ahora los Nighthawk, que tendrán que enseñar al alquimista.
They're a very popular, iconic faction within.
La portada está bien, porque no es reciclada. Portada bien, porque no es reciclada. Primer punto,
This book is like ram-packed with the lore that explains them all, as well as all of the war scrolls.
Portada bien porque no es reciclada.
I was talking to an avid
no parece hecha por IA
about this yesterday, who was super excited because he's sort of in the know enough to know, for example, that their ward saves are
Tomás, ya sabíamos que tocaba Fake y Noctánimas.
Try those in games.
Yeah, there's some significant defensive buffs for the.
Voy a poner las botas en la.
Generally speaking, you're finding that the units have a bit more health.
Yo sí que voy a probar. Es que he dicho los dos estos.
Immunity to rend works has changed a little bit. So generally their normal saves are a little bit worse, but you can now bolster them with things like all-out defense, and their ward saves are across the board a 5 up or better.
Que es que se nota mucho.
Yeah, perfect. Sí, sí. But let's get on to the
alquimista. Uy, el alquimista, qué bonito.
Which is the Lord Vitriolic. This is a very disturbing creature. In life, it was
something
like a poison
or
fake potions and curatives who deceives people and sort of let them down or led them to
Está muy bien. Me gusta mucho la mascarita, el bozal este que lleva puesto. Por fin sale, que recordemos que estos rumores en Jane llevan desde hace 50 años.
With like backward jointed arms on top of his spine. He's horrible.
Tiene 4 brazos, como están diciendo ahora.
Yeah, so he's got some very fun rules. So basically, you can see his rack of potions on his back there, and the way that manifests in games is you can create specialist potions and throw them at enemy units. And you've got 2 options on how you do that. You can either just chuck a bunch of random potions at the enemy and roll some random things to see what happens to them, or you can concoct a very specific potion to do a specific job. And the effects of those can range from things like doing harm to the enemy unit, taking away some of their advantages, all the way through to things like stripping ward saves from enemy units. So
que mejora, tipo, mejora las salvaciones, las salvaguardas, perdón, y cosas así.
Right, what enemy am I facing? What I'd really like against this is this specific bonus or this specific debuff to the enemy unit, or just to do some damage. So I think
we're going to see a lot of this guy. Debuff al enemigo, parece que creo que ha dicho de visibilidad. La nueva Spearhead, con las peluqueras y los espaderos. Esta Spearhead lo tiene todo lo que me gusta.
Just
por favor.
All the ghosts all the time, right? An absolutely brilliant box.
Espaderos.
With, everything you'd want to either kickstart an army, reinforce an army.
Los caballicos, bueno, me molan. Y luego tiene a los de la bolsa de la compra. Esta Spearhead está muy bien.
Those things were cool, but there's a lot of people here who have been holding onto their hats really patiently, hoping that we maybe, show them something they've never ever seen before.
Bueno, chavales. Agarraos a los asientos. Algo que no se ha visto. ¡Hola! Bueno.
What an incredible reveal. Eddie, I know you're super excited.
I am very excited. This might be my Age of Sigmar army. These
are
the Hellsmiths of Hashut. These are effectively the reincarnation of the Chaos Dwarf concept for Warhammer Age of Sigmar, an entirely redesigned.
Al final sí son lanceros, como vimos en los rumores.
Out first in an army set. Arriving alongside.
Tienen el mortero y el Dreadnought
also serves as the spearhead force for the Hellsmiths of Hashut. These models are phenomenally cool. The rules are great. The lore is great. I love absolutely everything
tiene que estar tirándose.
I think first thing I want to say
los gorros me molan muchísimo porque son de metal. Me gustaría más que tuviesen mascaritas y cosas así, pero bueno.
They retreated. They survived in their holds, or they took to the skies, or whatever.
But not these guys.
But not so the Zardron.
Hellsmiths al final, Hellsmiths of
Chaos
Hashut.
Duardin, who would become known as the Hellsmiths of Hashut. they instead turned to Hashut,
geniales,
an ancient and terrible Dwarden deity who taught them the ways of hellsmithing. So, and
Andrés
their
tiene que
whole
estar un
culture is
poquito mal
based
porque
around
no han salido
Hashut,
Hobgrots.
the Bullfather, and we're going to see that sort of writ large across all of these models. Let's dive into the first thing that appears in this new army set. These are the Infernal Cohort with Hashutite spears. Say that fast.
Aquí están los, la
They are
cohorte,
the
¿no?
core
Con,
unit for the Hellsmiths of
con
Hashut.
lanzas.
They are
Es el
an
que ponga
elite
con
combat
lanzas.
unit straight
Puede
off the
ser
bat.
que
These
sea
are
un
very
kit doble
dangerous dwarven
con,
indeed. And the first thing to observe is those Hashutite spears.
otro tipo de arma.
Each of them has got like a glowing orb in it. That contains
El de la máscara, el que tiene el armado en manos que va al pechito descubierto. Ese es el que mola.
So the
Con el
demon
casco
legions
de
that
metal,
invaded
así,
the
con
various
máscara.
Dwarden holds during the Age of Chaos. Some of them
Ay, mira un
took
Hobgrot,
over the
Andrés,
hold,
cómprate la caja.
where the Hellsmiths of Hashut dwelled.
Hay
They
un
instead
Hobgrot.
trapped those demon legions and decided to weaponize them into a fuel to power their war machines, their weapons, and their
Y hay una
technology.
enana,
So
sí, al
that
menos.
green glow, as you say, is ground up demon juice that
Dos,
is
hay dos
powering the
enanas.
weapons of the Hellsmiths.
Yeah, it's so cool. Things to talk about within this
Estoy
unit.
haciendo caso
Obviously,
omiso de lo
you've
que
got like a
dicen.
unit
Esto
champion,
lo
you see,
resumiré y lo pondré
you've got
el domingo que
which is
diga,
like this
perdón,
weird
en el
combination of
directo.
the
Haré un
bare-chested,
recopilatorio de todo,
Dwarden and a
¿Vale?
Hobgrot carrying a massive gong on its back and obviously a standard bearer. It's a two-for kit.
Aquí la otra
That's
opción, ¿no? Con
internalism for
espaditas.
this kit makes two different types of unit. And so
Y
here you have
escudos.
them with Hashutite blades, basically shorter ways
Me
of
mola
killing
porque
people.
son
They have
espadas
different,
de estas
profiles
planas,
within the game.
sin
Yeah,
punta.
both very useful. The spears
Aquí un
generally are your
poquito que
slightly
nos
more
ponen los
defensive
dos.
thing, so you get
Con-
bonuses.
y los
against enemies
colmillacos
charging
molan,
you, against
cómo se los
cavalry.
han puesto.
The swords are the slightly more offensive option, where you get bonuses for fighting into
Alguno
enemy
con
infantry and
colmillo
taking
roto, como
fight
este, el
the
de
enemy,
estandarte.
but both effectively heavily armored elite infantry.
Yeah, absolutely so. And you can paint them in different colours. The studio team's done a lovely job. The banner in the middle just is a really interesting nod to sort of the Zardron culture, which is, that's a ziggurat in the middle of that banner, right, with the bullfathers.
Y aquí, pues,
ruling
diferentes
above.
esquemas, ¿no? De pintado tal y
They
cual.
live in
Oye,
ziggurat
sin
cities, and
casco
each one
no
is
está mal.
ruled by a war despot. As if by magic, here is the war despot.
Me gusta el negro con.
thought you
con
planned the
este.
whole thing.
Bueno,
This is
el
my
déspota.
favourite model within this.
It's a great hat.
It might be
It's a
my,
great hat.
my favourite of the Hellsmiths. It's just so good. Huge hat, great big spikes. He's carrying an enormous
Mola,
war
mola.
blade, which is glowing. See the runes at the top glowing with this sort of eldritch power. The war despots, they have to rule through a mixture of sort of violence and also through just ensuring that everybody around them knows that they are the nastiest, toughest of all of the Hellsmiths.
Bueno, que
So
son
they are
unos-
dominant figures.
Yeah, like any Dwarden, they
Unos,
couldn't demand the loyalty of their
malditos
followers unless they were
déspotas.
able to
Vale.
lead from
Pero
the
peor
front,
dicho.
basically. So they're not cowardly, but they certainly are diabolical schemers, sort of thing. So they will lead their
Yeah,
armies
absolutely.
into battle proudly, but certainly not go for a fair
And
fight.
their
Liderar
whole
los
reason for
ejércitos
being
a la
as
batalla
an entire
orgullosamente,
culture is
bla, bla, bla.
it's just like weaponized greed. They plunder and take from the land and they give nothing back. If they don't want it, they destroy it. They are
De cómo
like,
se
cruel
nota,
in the
Feli, de cómo
extreme,
se nota
because
que
that's how
esta
they
gente le dejan
survived
pintar en vez de hacer
in
el
time of
chapucero.
chaos.
Yeah, they
Te
don't see
Me
themselves
ha
as
sorprendido lo
corrupted
clásicos que son,
for
pero
that.
son
There's
clásicos,
There's
pero a la vez no.
no physical side effects at all to what they've
and
gone through.
an
Son
interesting
bastante
subplot. They
diferentes,
see
¿eh?
themselves as almost the paragons of purest order, right?
Yeah.
So they've
A la
taken
vez,
the assault of chaos and they've
son
ground it down and created
diferentes, no
like,
sé.
order from chaos. But in the mortal realms, they effectively they're paving over the natural order and
Como dices,
putting
solo que han sabido encontrar el
the
equilibrio.
monuments to Hashut
Esas
and their
armas,
ziggurats
esos no
that
sé qué.
power their industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Also
Esos,
within
los
this
cascos así
spearhead,
más metálicos,
is
tal. Bueno, y
just
aquí
this
el
incredible
tonete.
centerpiece model, the Dominator engine.
El
It's another kit that makes two
Dominator
things. So
engine,
here you
¿vale?
can see the immolation cannons.
Con
This is a
cañón. Oh, y oh, la, 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 la,
metal
la, la, aquí
creation
está.
which is
Este
animated
con las
and powered
mazas.
by this
Ah, sí, sí,
demon
sí, con los
energy
cañones, bueno.
roiling inside it. Have a look at the sort of
Pero
brazier in
con
its
las
belly. You can
mazas,
see the demonic eyes
con
peering out
las mazas
as like
mola
the
un puñado.
demonic souls within a torch.
I love the
and
flames on
give
these
it its
things.
power.
That kind of like green into purple fire is such a
Esto
beautiful
es
sort of
un
aesthetic.
10,
This is
un 10.
both an incredibly cool miniature, which I think I'm looking forward to see what painters do with this, because the heavy metal one is wonderful, but I think once this goes out into the wild and you've got
Un enfrentamiento,
1,000
Rusán,
painters painting this, it's gonna be amazing. I can
entre
imagine
la
this
vaca
beautiful
elfa
non-metallics.
y el torete.
In game, this thing is an absolute juggernaut, right? So it has a 2-up save, armor save, which in Age of Sigmar is almost unheard of.
Vale, con
It
las
has
mazas,
loads of wounds, it
mola
hits really
mogollón,
hard. The combat version can mulch entire units. The shooting version is what you want if you want to wade into the middle of an enemy army and just set the whole thing on fire. like a lot of the stuff in the
Muy bien,
Hellsmiths
muy
army,
bien. Y
their
me
kind of
gusta más
army
porque no tiene el anillo en la nariz,
mechanic,
que no me
allows you
gustan
to
nunca esos.
harness
Y
a demon
tienen
power on
los
specific units, so you
cuernecitos
can
estos
bolster the
o
power of it,
colmillitos
and
ahí
on these it's
saliendo.
particularly devastating.
Fantastic.
Me gusta, me
And we're
gusta.
still
Uf,
not done.
muy bien, ¿eh?
Also within the spearhead, you'll find this. This is the Tormentor Bombard. The
Y la
Chaos
artillería,
Dwarfs
que
of
bueno, la
old, if you
artillería yo
cast
creo
them
que
when
es el
back
que
if you're
menos,
old
¿no?
enough
El
like
que
me,
menos
to
puede
the world that was.
que...
The Chaos Dwarfs were renowned for devastating artillery, particularly that lobbed things far across the
llame la
battlefield.
atención,
And that
por decirlo de una
concept
manera,
has been
¿no?
reimagined for the Mortal Realms with this just beautiful Tormentor Bombard, raw demonic power hurled high into the air
Pero
to come
está
crashing down upon the
guapísimo.
enemy. It's deadly in the game.
Yeah, this is the war machine you use if you're being advanced on by multiple enemy units. So you can fire at a single enemy unit, and the units nearby also take damage. That's how devastating this is. Very long range. I think it shoots 30 inches, which again is very good in Age of Sigmar. I think the Hellsmiths of Hashut, between this and some of their other units, have claimed to being one of the most devastating shooting armies in the Mortal Realms.
Well, let's talk a bit more about that because I think we have
mola,
the Deathstreaker rocket battery. Brilliant for just like blowing up
Los
the
nanocars
enemy's
inventando
big
los
impressive things, right?
Yeah, so
neumáticos
this is
en
a
los reinos
monster
mortales.
killer,
Me
right?
gusta tu
So where your
comentario,
other war
José.
machine is the thing to take out blocks of enemy infantry and kind of massed formations, this is your... They have
Dame
one big
5
monster
cajas,
that
está
I want to be
más,
dead.
ya, a tope.
You can fire this at them, and this...
Es imposible
with a
hatear
fair,
esto,
you know,
pues
with
ya
a
te
piece
digo
of
yo
roll,
que alguien
will
lo
take out a
hateará.
monster in a single volley,
You're
which is
firing
pretty good.
Ya te digo yo que
essentially
alguien
a demon energy
lo
imbued
hateará.
bolt the size of 2 Duarden stood.
Porque a mí...
sort of
Ah, bueno,
head to
mira,
toe.
¿tiene
Yeah,
opción
it's good.
misiles? ¿Tiene opción misiles?
This
tiene opción
launch
misiles?
set also includes a battle tome. It also includes all of the war scroll cards that you would
Opción misiles,
want
chavales.
to have with your
Se
collection.
les ha ido la olla.
It's the
Se les ha ido la
perfect
olla.
jumping on point for an all-new Hellsmiths of Hashut army.
But that's not it.
Venga, saca las minis ahí. ¿Has estado sacando las minis de los Votan y estas no las vas a sacar? Cuidado, que enseñan más. ¡Hola! 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 ¡Oy, oy, 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 oy! Que no sé dónde mirar. ¡Oy, oy, 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 oy! Buah, esto hay que sacar capturas ya, chaval.
Followed shortly thereafter with all of those incredible models that you just saw. Rounding
¿Esto
out
qué es, la
the force into a
escena?
really
¿O es una gárgola, la Masu?
Yeah, immediately out of the gate you have
Se llama
almost a
Uruk
full
Tar.
army offer.
Oh, la
basically,
opción...
stuff.
Ay, pero
And,
no lo
we start off
paséis.
with one of the classic units of
Pero
Warhammer.
no lo
returning.
paséis.
Bull Centaurs have been part of Warhammer for I think almost 35
pasado
years.
los-
Something like that.
I remember being charged
¿Pero qué
by
han
the
hecho?
Guías when I was like 13 or 14.
In their classic red with green bases back
Que
in
están
the
geniales los
day,
centauros,
but,
tal
this
cual,
is-
¿vale? Los
this is a heavy
toros
cavalry
centauros, pero
unit.
no me paséis
They
lo,
are basically the
el...
experts at riding down enemy forces and crushing them under their hooves. They hit very hard. They're well armored. These are the sort of manifestation of the power of Hashut in kind of form. The Duarden here have kind of warped to be more alike to their ancient ancestor
He
god.
estado mirando el Discord a ver,
really,
pero bueno,
you
a
said
ver
a thing to me
si...
earlier that I thought was really striking, which is
Están geniales, ¿eh?
Hashut's whole
Hay
thing is
otra
like
opción de
trampling the
montaje...
mortal realms.
Bueno, con las
Like
mazas yo
these
creo que...
the Duarden
están
gods
superguays,
sort of
¿eh?
inherited a different realm and
Gama
Yeah, so
entera,
stuck with the realm.
prácticamente.
So there's
Bueno, no
loads
creo
of
que
really
sea
great
toda la
lore
gama,
in the new
pero...
battle tome, and one of the things that comes out is the idea that there were the ancestor
Me ha
gods of
tocado las narices que
Duarden,
se
and
hayan-
Hashut was almost like one of them, right? He was like one of the pantheon, and he was given the realm of beasts, and he sort of felt that was almost like an insult, right? Like I don't want the realm of beasts.
De
So
hecho, lleva
rather
muerto un
than
rato.
trying to kind of be harmonious with it, he decided to just trample it flat. So all of his incarnation of
El
beast
fandom elfo
power
diciendo que
is in
pues
the
nos venden
form
en
of
3, 2,
trampling,
1.
in the
Pues
form of kind
esto
of harnessing
vende. Yo
and,
creo que, hombre, mola
subjugating
mogollón.
nature.
Yeah,
Y
so
que
let's look
no
at
llorando, por
the,
supuesto.
another sort of variation that this kit
Ah,
has,
esta
like
opción,
the Anointed Sentinels.
esta opción me
These
gusta
are
más,
the
¿eh?
most devoted
Con las
towards
máscaras.
Hashut of the
Esta opción me
Hellsmiths.
gusta más.
They guard his holy places, whatever a holy place for the bull father Hashut might look like.
Andrés ya lanza con
They're much more
Horus,
defensive
Tomás.
than the
No me
other bull centaurs, although by no means a passive.
Los
unit.
Anointed
They're just
Sentinels
really great
me
at
gustan más,
counter-punching. And when you consider how much
No sé,
of the force might
el
be
tema
standing
de
back
pecho
and raining
descubierto
death
y
on the
luego
enemy,
el casco
very useful in their own right.
me mola
You
mucho
also
más.
get like a little interesting
El
nod to
casco no
that
le gusta.
Hashutite culture, is sort of breathed into it through these.
Yeah, I love those miniatures. They might be my favourite in the range, those particular sculpts.
They key into that sort of classic imagery that we're used to from before, as does the next unit. He says seamlessly segueing in.
Héroe.
We'll see. So
Pero ¿qué está pasando?
We have the infernal razors.
Bueno, ahora os les da por ir rápido. Las unidades de artillería. Mola, los cañones, están guays,
long enough in the beard, you might remember Chaos Dwarf blunderbusses from yesteryear.
The absolute
like
terror
no,
of the fantasy.
Aquí hay gente que se va a quedar sin pasta.
Diabolical. And these are a very dangerous shooting unit in their own right. Again, they're harnessing.
Me molan las enanas, porque con los colmillitos, sin la barba, pero con los colmillitos le da un toque cachondo. Ya tienen más unidades que matafuegos, dice Guillermo, pero tiene razón.
Flame hurlers, which, I mean, they hurl flames.
Ahí está la otra opción, otro kit.
Yeah, two really powerful units. So the blunderbusses.
Bueno, ahora luego iremos al artículo cuando acabe la preview tal y cual, pero podemos hablar de la cantidad de
flame hurlers can fire
que
while
ya
you're
hemos
in
visto.
combat, which is really handy. So even if the enemy manages to
salen
reach you,
8
you can still sort of set them on fire.
o 9
But the thing that
fácilmente.
really makes them is that through the army rule mechanic, you can
son
power
dos.
them up. And power up the demonic energy inside the
Las
guns,
cajas
basically
son
increase the
dos
rend on the
más
guns. You can get these things up to rend 3, doing multiple damage, which is absolutely horrific. So
Son 6
if the
en la
enemy is
caja.
like
En la caja
charging
vienen 6
your
Warscroll y ahora acabamos de
big unit
ver
of infernal razors, and you
otros
get like a
4 más,
decent round of
10
shooting
más
against
la
it.
más,
You can
más
wipe
el
out things
otro,
like heavy
12.
cavalry and whole units of armored infantry and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They are
12
very,
Warscrolls,
very good.
Yeah, now everything we've shown you really is quite elite and high value.
Get ready for the other end of the
Yeah,
spectrum.
exactly.
Yeah.
But what if you
No,
want some chaff to hurl
Andrés,
under the,
no
the
mires,
wheels
Andrés,
of the
no
enemy, so to
mires.
speak? Good news, there is a genial relationship
Andrés, no
between
mires.
the Hellsmiths of Hashut and the Hobgrots, who sort of bolstered their ranks.
Apaga
Hobgrots
el móvil,
are also
Andrés.
really into doing awful things.
Y aquí
and
están los
desecrating
Hobgrots,
the world.
vándalos.
And so they exist as almost like a vassal state within the Zardron culture. In exchange for better
Están molones,
weapons and
están
they
molones,
could, like, forage for themselves. They get to join the army and whack stuff. They fill a really interesting niche.
Andrés no está
They are
escribiendo.
faster than the
Le ha
Hellsmiths
dado
and
algo.
they
Se ha
can
puesto muy
scout.
nervioso y ya
Absolutely can.
no
So the
tiene
way these guys are
escribir.
going to fit into your army, most of your force is going to be very
Ahí
good at
vemos
shooting,
músico, estandartes,
but
¿no?
relatively slow. So you're going to be moving on to the objectives
Me encanta.
late game.
Solo ha puesto me
But
encanta.
these
Qué
can
guay.
scouts, as you say, so you can kind of push them forward early in the game, grab those objectives, just get under the feet of enemy units. They will absolutely be used for things like trying to take a charge from something so you can set
Bueno,
all your other units
pantallacas
up for
puras
an
y
amazing
duras, es
round
lo
of
que están
shooting,
diciendo
or to charge them
en
with
el
bull
este.
centaurs or something
Recordad
like
que
that.
no estoy haciendo
So
mucho caso
we'll
porque
absolutely
estoy
want some of these
flipándolo,
in
¿vale?
your force.
No estoy haciendo mucho
We've
caso a lo
obviously
que
seen
dicen.
Hobgrots
El
before,
domingo lo voy a
in the kind of
resumir,
cruel
lo voy a
boys force,
escribir
but these
todo,
are
todo
armored
el
and
preview.
equipped by the Hellsmiths themselves. So they've got slightly better armor, maybe than the ones that don't
None of
have
that
them.
sort of eldritch power in the weapons, though, not for these guys.
Oh no, they don't get to play with any of the
Guillermo
demons.
está
So,
muy dolido con Matafuegos.
Let's look at some of the extra
Otro,
sort of
ya
heroes
13
that join,
Warscroll. Demon
faction.
King,
These are
el que
Demon
salía la
Smith.
silueta.
They are the ones who do the
Mola.
helmsmithing, I suppose it's fair to say.
Simple en el post tal y
you
cual,
can
porque
see in
está
this model
leyendo
there's
el
some
libro,
real
¿no?
sort of hints
El
as to
libro,
who is
vamos a
obviously a
decir
wizard.
el libro.
It's got that demonic power sort of coming out of his hand.
Pero hay muy
His
mono.
tome looks like it's sort of etched in.
Voy a escribir a
Obsidian
estos
Jade.
porque
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
With like Val runes. I think his lectern is animated. In a nutshell, they
How
are.
good is that paint scheme, though?
It's
Whoever painted that in the heavy metal team, well done.
Yeah.
Well done,
it's,
guys.
It's just stunning.
Vale, están
They fill a
echándole flores.
particular function because they're the ones that enable all of the sort of the hellsmithing. to
Yeah,
take
they
place.
allow the kind of army to work. In game terms, they do a particularly useful thing, as well as being a wizard, which is obviously great. They can heal your war machines as well. So if you've got any of those big infernal engines,
La
or you've
mejor
got
preview
any
de la
cannons
historia.
that can
Está mi
damage, they can
neverolito,
kind of go over and
estamos,
put
sí,
the
bueno, tú
power
y yo,
back into them,
ya,
sort of thing.
hay muchos, estamos ahí
This
muy...
kit has another option in it.
Me parece un
It also
poquito
makes
vulgar.
an
¡Hola,
ashen
otro!
elder.
¡Venga!
It shows you the anointed centaurs who are
Un
the ones
viajales,
who
no, un
guard the
elder,
holy
no,
sites. This is the person doing
Otro
the
héroe,
rituals
14
inside the holy
Warscrolls.
sites.
Ya van por
And you can
14,
see
creo.
that petrification has started
Debería
to
salir a
happen to
final
the
de año.
skin. The older a hellsmith gets, the more they start to become like stone.
Yo lo que quiero es que me saquen la mini tocha en la mesa, porque si no me toca trabajar para ver el tamaño de ese traje.
But Doom is upon them. There's a couple of really interesting things I like to
Lo voy a
start.
tener que
I'm just going to eulogize about how beautiful it is that the smoke makes it look like a beard. But you had a fascinating fact about the hammer.
Yeah, so there's lots of things that are really fun about this miniature, but if we go for hammer particularly,
Hay
there's not a
mesas
lot
para
of
hablar,
hammers
pues,
in the
pues
Hellsmiths.
básicamente,
And one of the reasons is that hammers are actually
porque
seen as a slightly profane symbol to the
esto
Hellsmiths because
es
they remind them one of the other
alucinante,
dwarven
chavales.
ancestor gods, which really like hammers. But this particular hammer
No
is
lo
blessed
quiero-
in the
no lo
blood
quería
of
decir, pero
other
esto es
Duardin
alucinante.
priests. So he would have like found a runesmith or something.
El hipe por las
or one of the
nubes, está
Caradhran
esto.
priests or something, and
Mira,
then,
Mariano
slain them in
nos
a
dice las
sacrifice
navidades
and
más caras de la
blessed the hammer
historia.
in that blood. So
Sí.
that's why he's the one with the hammer when no other
So if
Hellsmiths
you're
is
Las
a
navidades
Fire Slayer
más
player,
caras
Caradhran
del
Overlord
mundo
Oh, I hate
mundial.
this guy,
Desde luego.
yeah.
Pick on this guy the most, right?
The Caradhrans and the Fire Slayers really do
Y
not
todavía
get on
no han
with the
dicho
Hellsmiths.
nada del
Like,
décimo
there is a lot.
aniversario.
They've
Es
got
que
beef.
eso es
Yeah,
para
absolutely
Thor
so.
cuando saque la mini de Sigmar.
There's also another character we should talk about. This is
Esto.
Directo.
Dios.
He's the first demon smith.
Porque es de metal
back
a
in
tope.
that ancient time
Me flipa.
when the Hellsmiths needed to
Mira lo que,
learn to
que
survive.
decía, que quizá nos
he
quitaban lo de que
learned
se
the
convierten en
secrets
piedra,
of this
pues este
demon
parece que se está
smithing
convirtiendo en
from
piedra, este
Hashut.
tío.
He is truly ancient and abominably
Este es el
powerful.
personaje.
You can see how that manifests his
El primer Demon Smith.
petrification on the back, like deep trenches of like rock starting to form out of his flesh, horns
tocará.
erupting from his skull. He's
Compara.
mounted on an enormous infernal, my brain's just gone blank, infernal Taurus, just centerpiece written all over him, incredible spot within the lore. Wonderful.
Yeah, very, very cool miniature. It's a 2-for-1 kit as well, which is really cool. It also
Y
makes
esta
your
opción.
Demon Smith on Infernal Taurus. There's
Que
a
sería
bunch
la-
of options
la-
on this
la
kit as well,
normal.
which is amazing. So I can't wait to see what painters do with this kit particularly, because
Yeah,
it is
absolutely.
just
Ahora
asking for a
mismo
beautiful
no
colour
importa.
scheme. You can imagine this in like beautiful non-metallics or metallics or glowing runes or
the glowing-
kind of
Y
petrified
esto
rock
para
or
pintarlo
something
porque
else.
es
But,
metálico o este
again,
más
that kind of
plan
manifestation
piedra,
of Hashut
en plan
as,
gárgola o tal y cual,
never
jade
deciding to
o como
use
está más o
the
menos ahí.
natural materials, right? It's always
Puede
going to
quedar
be
muy, muy bien.
industrial in some way, or made out of iron or metal or stone or something like
And
that.
the only wood on the base is like burned
Burned to
ruined.
cinder.
it's
Yeah,
so
you,
good.
you can imagine him walking through a forest of just like that.
Yeah, should we take a look at some of the models in the flesh? We've got them here in the room with us, and
Yeah.
we can give you
I've
some
got-
sort
I've
of
got
a sense
ourselves
of
a
their
little
forms.
lineup
Yeah, look
from
at this.
here, look at that.
It's looking good. Here is my personal favourite. You have the War
Ahí está,
Despot.
la mini puesta.
You can see he's a very chunky-looking Duardin. If I stick this infernal razor next to him, you get a sense of. Sorry, I'm just making your life harder with the camera there. Perfect. You can see. Like bigger in stature, more powerful. Moving along, you have the Demon Smith and the Ashen Elder. Teeny tiny little hobgrot on the end of the line. Really quite sort of scrawny.
Mira, los
just
hobgrots
perfect for,
chiquititos.
subverting to your will and getting
The
through your
same,
daily work.
just for kind of scale purposes, that's the same size, more or less, as
Nadie
the
puede
hobgots
decir
that
nada
currently exist
más.
in the Cruel
Nadie
Wolf
puede
range, so
decir
you get
nada
an
más.
idea of
¿Vale?
the
Si es que
size.
hasta Balrak, hasta
Much larger.
Balrak, que no le gusta
We
nada
have
hecho Sigmar.
the bull centaur
Lo ha
there,
dicho.
so you can see that the
Hecho,
power
si
of
es que
the
las
shot sort of
minis de
coursing through
hecho
that guy. This
Sigmar
is
son
a
la leche.
fairly large cavalry miniature there. It's like on a scale with some of the kind of I guess like Agrodon sort of size, that kind of.
Yeah, he's big to say the least. But
Habéis
not
visto
as
que
big
piernas
as
más
Hellsmith
redonditas,
anyway.
Son,
Here we go.
son piernas redonditas,
the,
A ver, que me lo
just-
estoy
Even
poniendo mal.
beefier.
Buah,
Yeah,
como
absolutely.
mola como
So,
mola con la
This-
doble
yeah,
maza.
this is such a cool model. I think you can have a few of these in your army as well. There's a few different options. for
Leyendo
kind of
el móvil,
heads
no,
and
Rubén,
things,
respondiéndote
so
a ti.
I certainly expect to see a few of these making their way into the end.
Let's bring in
Bah,
at
la,
least
la
one of
mini
the
esta,
Yeah, let's
la
go
mini
with
del
that.
torete
Right, so
está
to,
genial.
uh,
De todas
run
maneras, ya sabéis,
so
haré
let's
comparativa,
use some of these
¿vale?
guys.
Run out of
Haré
space. There's too
comparativa
much stuff in this release. It doesn't all fit on the
y
table.
miraré a ver cómo son los tamaños, intentaré comparar, tal cual. Y cuando digo lo
there we
intentaré
go, so you
hacer
can
es
see the
que
two
me voy a
war
poner esta
machines.
noche.
Again, these have got like
Vale,
really
me
lovely
pongo
little dioramas
esta
on the back,
noche.
so you've got multiple
La que no prometo
characters sort
nada
of
es la
with
de
different
los
roles across the
centauros,
artillery piece,
porque
like,
es ovalada y esa
funneling
ya
the
sabéis que
demonic
es
power
muy
into the
difícil y más
engine,
sobre
or
todo si no tengo más
stoking the furnace
referencias.
and that sort of thing. A little bit like the Leagues of Votan artillery.
Pero
These are just,
de
like,
la del
wonderful
torete
pieces
y
in the
tal,
range.
Yeah, but
la
let's bring
del
in
Lamasu
Directo, shall
nuevo,
we?
he's the big guy, here he is.
Round this all out.
¿cómo te gusta comparar
So,
y medir?
I mean, this is,
A tope.
uh,
Uy, que aquí está el
Powers
tocho.
above even the Dominator engine.
There we go.
Buah.
Just exceptional.
Pero ponme uno
there'll be
chiquitito
loads more
también al
pictures
lado.
of this on
Una unidad
warhammercommunity.com, and you can see it all in more
No me
detail.
los
There's
ponen
probably some bits and pieces
alineados.
of information that we
Qué
left out.
desgraciados.
We need to move on.
Yeah, we need to get
Right.
That was
Before I
very
do,
cool.
Yeah,
Very
before I
it's
do,
brutal,
one more
eh?
thing. I'm aware that lots of people in the chat might be keen to know about Warcry and whether or not Warcry.
¿Qué pasa con Warcry?
The Warhammer Studio team are going to publish rules for using Hellsmiths of Hashut.
Ah, vale,
for
que van a
Warcry
publicar reglas
when,
para utilizar en
they
Warcry.
release. So keep your eyes peeled on the Warhammer Community
los-
website.
los
There'll be a free
bichillos
download
estos, ¿vale?
that lets you try out some of the Hellsmith models in Warcry in your games.
Sí,
Yeah, so
eso
not
tiene
only will it be
pinta,
a
que
full
van a ser
Beyond
de ese
for
tamaño.
Warcry,
El problema es que
but
luego
also
para
feature
llevarlo a
as the
comparativa
entire
es muy
faction in
complicado
Warcry as
hacerlo,
well.
Mariano.
But- and
Desde luego
also,
para porque no te pone una
it would be nice if
imagen
we segued
perfecta
seamlessly into
en
the Warhammer
lateral
Underworlds.
o de enfrente.
So welcome to
Bueno,
this is an expansion for Warhammer Underworlds. The scene is essentially.
Oye, que lo he pausado, que lo he pausado. Que a Zack le da algo. A Zack le da algo.
Warband fighting against the Kenothi. So it really
Es
is industry
por lo menos la
versus
nombra.
nature.
Yeah, there's a strong rivalry in the Mortal Realms between the Hellsmiths, who are
Guay,
all about,
guay.
as I say, trampling nature underfoot, and the Sylvaneth,
Pues me voy a tener
who are
que
about
comprar la
protecting
nueva
nature,
caja
and the
de
Kenothi are a
Underworld.
particularly kind of warlike aspect
luego
of
una
that,
nueva
following
caja,
the kind of absent hunter god.
Vale, aquí tenemos el
So they will
clásico
defend the
centauro
wild
de los
places of the
estos.
Mortal
Ah,
Realms.
bueno, todos son
Here you can see
centauros.
the two
Son tres
warbands.
centauros.
This is an expansion, as we say, for Emberguard. And
Y
you
los
have
otros.
the Hellsmiths. You have the Kenothi.
Sí, son solo
Blood of the
centauros,
Bull
pero
is the
molan, ¿eh?
Hellsmiths unit.
Los Kurnozis es
Bottom
que son
left-hand
eso,
corner, you have
prácticamente.
a War
Los
Despot,
centauros también son Kurnozis.
Army advancing into the Spikewood has suffered a strategic reversal, so she's regrouped with her sort of remaining
Aaron,
warriors
esto es la
in a
ruina,
circle,
otra caja. Sí, tío,
and
sí.
she's waiting on reinforcements before she can raise the place to the ground. So she finds herself contesting it, obviously, against the
Vale, la sangre del
You've got some
toro.
great archetypes in the mix there as well. I
Spikewood
particularly like
lo
the
llaman
Hog Guard.
expansión,
He
así que
deserves a call out, doesn't he?
He does.
no sé
'cause,
hasta qué punto va a
if you've
tener
been
solo
playing
las
Warhammer for a very
bandas.
long time,
Tal cual.
you
Eso lo
may
veremos ahora en los
remember
artículos muy
hobgoblins from
rápidamente.
Warhammer Fantasy Battle, and there was a unit called Throat Cutters, I think it was,
think
or
so,
Throat
yeah.
Slitters.
Pero muy
he is
bonito.
basically a homage to those
It's
as well,
really
which is
lovely.
really lovely to see.
Yeah, they've got.
El enano este, el calvete que está tocando la guitarra, bueno, vale.
Decimate the landscape just for the joy of it.
Las cartas se los rellenamos
The other
muy
warband in this
largas.
set
Sí.
is, he says, well, there we go.
Y aquí los Kurnozi, que el jefe,
there's three of them in the
Kurnos Herald,
They make
los
these,
heraldos de Kurnos,
Kenothi.
este
thing
es
to
el que
point out with them
vale
in
con
terms
el
of like,
hacha.
their rules and how
Un
they
hacha.
play is that they're very defensive.
Bueno, no
because
mola
they're
más el
holding
héroe
what they've got,
con
they're
el
not
jefe,
interested in
con el
stealing other
escudo,
people's
pero
stuff, they
este con
just
el hacha mola
protect
mogollón.
their woods. And so while they're in their own area of the board, if you're an Underworlds player, you'll be familiar with the sort of mechanic. They're better.
Pero
so
bueno,
they're
pero
better depending on
bueno,
their
It's quite an
Guillermo,
intricate
tienen
warband
de
because
todo, ¿eh?
they're quite a
Tienen
fast warband,
faunos
and
y
usually you expect that to be
centauros.
quite
Y
aggressive.
luego
but your
solo
bonuses
elfos
are
con
for
cuernos.
defensive.
Yeah,
O,
so
bueno, o gente con
redeploying,
cuernos.
fighting in different areas in your own area. And
Vale, con
I love these
cornamenta
miniatures.
de
I
alce
think, we've
y
seen
cosas de
Kenothi
estas.
in Underworlds before, and this is a kind
No,
of
los
expansion of that.
Kurnothi
But I think this is a
es como
phenomenally cool
una
looking
especie
one.
de
I looked at them too long
mutación
and
poco
I'm
a
really
poco.
disturbed by their gemstones
Oh,
glowing
you
in
said
their
that. You
belly
don't like the
buttons.
glowing belly
it's
buttons.
something about it, man.
I dig it. I dig it. I'm here for glowing belly buttons.
¿Esto no
So
le
there we
daría
go.
vidilla al ejército? Bastante, yo
Awesome
creo que
stuff
sí.
also for Warhammer Underworlds. What an awesome set of
Y ahora
releases
ya se han
for
ventilado
Warhammer Age
Underworlds.
of Sigmar.
And
Falta
10
aquí el
years
team.
of Warhammer
That's a
Sigmar
really
as
fair
well.
point. Yeah,
sí, mira, los 10
10
años.
years ago
De
this
hecho,
month,
Sigmar, cuidado.
we saw the
10 años.
arrival of the Mortal Realms, the birth of Warhammer Age of Sigmar.
A ver qué dicen.
We're going to be sort of showing over the coming year a whole bunch of interesting things to do with the Mortal Realms. So if you enjoy Warhammer Age of Sigmar, you're in for a good time.
Yeah. It's taken
A lo largo del año van a seguir enseñando
cosas.
cosas.
But then they are only moving forward.
de estas que van
Rappers
saliendo para
respectively reminded us
Underworld.
that there is in fact 5 more things to
Oh,
talk
there's
about,
more. Look at this.
and we're already getting the move along.
Vale,
this
de las
time.
bandas antiguas como ya
There
dijeron.
are 4 more boxes coming for Warhammer Underworlds. Each box
No
contains
pare-
4
así han pasado
warbands.
ahora
Each
de
box
repente.
also
Underworlds no creo que haya
synergizes with a
sorpresita,
particular faction.
Rosán.
So this is the Order one, the Seekers in Shadow, and it contains 4 warbands.
Usuario aleatorio.
from
Espero
the
que se
Order
pueda
faction.
poner yelmo a los
Around the
enanos
lance, I
para que
should
no
say.
parezcan
This is
enanas.
the Death one.
Hombre, yo creo que
These are
habrá
the Rulers
cabezas
of
para
Ruin, the
todos y
Chaos
todo tipo de
warbands.
cosas, así
And
que...
we'll save my favourite to last because I'm allowed to. The Gits
Bueno,
and
la
Blast, the Destruction
destrucción,
warbands.
tal cual,
Each,
clásicos, ¿vale?
I mean, anybody who plays Warhammer Underworlds will know
De esta tengo
each
todo.
Warhammer Underworlds warband is lovely, right? They're just characterful and they home into a different part of the Mortal Realm setting. And you get 4 in a box. It's just
Bueno,
it's
Rosán
delightful.
va un poquito adelantado y dice,
To
mira que
play
sale
with
ahora,
them, you
Andrés.
would need to pick up this, which is
Bueno,
the Warbands
Warbands
of
of
Spikewood,
Spikewood, las
contains all the
cartas.
cards and everything that you want. So whether you fancy playing with them in Warhammer Underworlds, seamlessly
A buenas
integrating
horas.
them with
Sí,
their
algunas cosas a buenas
cards into Warhammer Age of Sigmar, or just having some different hobby experiences. There's 16 opportunities in 4 boxes.
There are, every one of those boxes is all killer, no filler. There is some
Bueno,
beautiful
no
miniatures
están
in
hablando
there,
mucho, están diciendo
including
pues
the
eso,
crab,
¿no?
the idea
De,
of
pues
crabs.
de las
Perfect.
bandas, tal y
Yeah,
cual ahí
so,
había
I
símbolos,
think
por
we
ejemplo,
actually are at the end of the
que me
Warhammer.
We
interesa
are now
porque
at the
son
end of
bandas
the
que
Mortal
tenía
It would be,
pintadas y
it would be
tal
a
cual y
good
me
time to
gustaría
check in on the
jugarlas.
question corner and see if there are in fact any questions.
Yeah, there's loads.
Preguntitas,
People
a
are
ver.
very, very excited to hear about the Hellsmiths joining Warcry. That'd be really
Oh,
cool. as well.
fantastic. We're really pleased because we want them to be able to play with them and enjoy them.
Yeah, and of course the range is stunning, so people are super pumped about that. So there's a bit of confusion about the Grand Alliance that they come from. So presumably they come from the Chaos Grand Alliance, and if so, how do they fit in with the rest of the Chaos?
Yeah, so I can take
go
that
on.
one. So the Hellsmiths of Hashut have a slightly interesting relationship with several factions in the Mortal Realms. They are definitely in the Chaos Grand Alliance. So despite what they themselves believe, they probably are corrupted by Chaos at least a little bit.
You don't get to play with that much demon power.
No, I mean you have tusks growing out of your face and horns growing out, and
you're turning to stone.
Yeah, I mean something's got a little bit demonic there. But they would consider themselves as kind of champions of order, but they are in the Chaos Grand Alliance. They also trade with the various forces of Chaos, so perhaps Chaos warlords and things would go to their ziggurats and be served with like, weapons that they forged in exchange for bounty that is collected across the realms. They also have a kind of symbiotic relationship with the Hobgrots and have traded with like the Cruel Boys and things like that. But they are
¿Han dicho cuándo sale? No, no lo han dicho. Pero todos los rumores apuntan para final de año.
Hashut fit in with the Chaos Pantheon?
Really badly.
Yeah, it does not play well with others as a recurring theme, really.
So he is part of the pantheon of the Duardin gods, right? But he feels ostracized. They understandably want to ostracize him. So the Hellsmiths kind of vilely resent the other It's a very practice relationship, which is why there's such vitriol between them. Great questions. Thank you very much.
Well, we need to
go to our next setting, which we will do by moving to the timeline of the Horus Heresy.
Let's do it.
Bueno, queda herejía de Horus, tanques de herejía de Horus, pero para leyes imperiales.
Legions Imperialis. It's all tanks. So if
you're
a
many tanks,
so many tanks, and we'll take you on a tour. Several boxes of fantastic plastic kits that make some really interesting additions to your army. On screen now you can see the Whirlwind and Scorpius set.
Si es a final de año mejor, así puedo encontrar un buen comprador para vender alguno.
Eso desde luego. Rain death on the enemy.
Porque es que la cosa está apretada.
It's a wonderful way to do it.
Con tanto dinero que hay que gastarse. Con suerte es un ejército élite y no hay que gastarse tanta pasta.
Essentially, what's the biggest gun you can stick on a Rhino? Oh, it appears to be a gun with a breech big
enough
to stuff a whole
I want an even bigger
it.
gun though, Adam. I want a bigger gun.
You want to do a heavier siege.
I want a heavier siege gun
no estoy diciendo nada de esto.
Oh, that's it. That's exactly it.
The Type on Heavy Siege Tank Squadron is on the way. It's
it's
even bigger and more dangerous than the Vindicator. And you get like a nice guy with a flamer just warming things up and making sure that everything goes according to plan.
Is he contributing? Like, by the time you've been shot by that siege gun, how much of a
flamer?
He's just like
la
baking
de la
off what's left. You know,
maybe,
they drive through and it's like, you're getting some, you're getting some. So if you want to blow things up from further away, maybe there's a Titan squadron that offends you, then you could do a lot worse than the Cerberus squadron. These are firing turbo lasers. That guy is offering you a fist bump. It is a wonderful time to be driving tanks over the enemy.
Yeah. Some debate in the office as to whether it's a heavy tank destroyer or a heavy tank destroyer.
Yeah, exactly. We've had some debate.
Let us know in the chat which one you think it is.
Do you think it's a heavy tank for destroying or a tank for destroying heavy things? Answers.
Possibly both. Possibly.
The heaviest of all of the tanks, it's so heavy, it's super heavy, is the Mastodon Assault Transport. What if you want to just pack Space Marines into a tank, drive it across the battlefield, open your gates and charge into an enemy stronghold, having leveled the walls with a melter array, then this is the way for you to do so. Even got its own anti-aircraft system on the top, and
yo voy a comentar ahora un poquito, voy a leer un poquito por encima el tema de community, ¿vale? Para que lo veáis.
30,000.
Pero primero me voy a esperar a
I love it. The design on this, we've seen this at like standard Warhammer 40,000 scale. It's beautiful. It's still beautiful at small scale.
¿Hay Warscrolls en el community? Bueno, Warscrolls o solo los estos?
Those kits,
no los estoy viendo,
like loads and loads of tanks that Treadheads rejoice. All of the rules for those, in fact, all of the rules for all of the units in Legions Imperialis can be found in Liber Strategia. Essentially, a thing that combines all of the rules in one place. If you've got a copy of the core, if you've got a copy of this, you are ready to rock and roll, along with a whole bunch of other rules, content. There's too much to go into here and now, but have a look in the article that's going to be on Warhammer Community, and we'll talk more about it closer to the launch. What if you really like the letters A through F, and you want to mark objectives and or token effects? We're releasing just useful set of token markers.
De la imagen de la caja.
I find these sort of things very useful for
la imagen de la caja, luego lo veremos un poquito.
And then there's all the formation and data sheets you need for your Legions Imperialis games. The team responsible for this setting have really just done a cracking job of making sure that like
Sí, lo he
the
visto, lo he
rules
visto.
are accessible, you can get hold of them. It's really fun time. I'm very
Yeah,
impressed.
kind of compiled a lot of stuff together.
Algo
Yeah,
tienes que decir en
convenient,
eso,
way of
ya verás.
I've got a good
Acaban de
friend who's
decir que
super
cumple
into
10
it,
años y que a lo largo del año
he
nos
was
van
asking me about
a
like
enseñar cosas o decir cosas.
how he gets all of his rules
Han
together.
dicho
I just
eso.
had to sit there quietly knowing that this was around the
Wouldn't
corner.
that be great if there
No
was
creo
more
que
of
nos
them?
enseñen más, porque
your
si lo han
best
dicho
be
ya
nice.
así de pasada aquí, no
There's
creo
more
que...
stuff set within the Age of Darkness. We teased these in the Saturnine preview, but we have the Mark II Assault
10
Squad.
años más y
I think we showed one before,
We
didn't we?
did, yeah. I absolutely love these. So this is the new
Bueno,
Mark II
retros
Assault Marines.
que
Mark
al
II is
final
kind
es
of
para
one of the more
Heresy
brutal
Horus,
looking of the various different Space Marine armor marks, and these guys have ramped that up even further.
que yo
You've
decía
got
que
some
podría ser
options in this
para
kit
Kill
for a
Team,
variety
¿no?
of
Para
different
Deathwatch o lo que
weapon
fuese, pero
options.
no.
The coolest of them is the chain axe, which is an optional free
MK2,
upgrade
Asalto.
to the chain sword that comes normally with your Assault Marines.
Yeah, and so the kit's loaded with chain axes. It even has heavy chain axes for extra clout.
Bueno,
I think of them
muchas
slightly slower than chain axes,
hacha
but they have
sierra,
a,
muchas
like a
Chain
more
swords,
dangerous.
yeah.
Sorry, chain swords, but they have a more dangerous effect. Absolutely. There are points-free alternative. So if you buy these, it's just a straight points, no points involved, just a straight kit swap. If you're dying to have that classic chainsword loadout, then there's some good news because you can swap the arms with the ones that are on the Mark VI Assault Marines, or you can just get them from the upgrade kit. But I
Bueno,
think
mejoras de
compliance never looks
kit,
better than it
bla,
does
bla,
with
Yeah,
a chain axe.
there's some great different options in there as well. You've got a couple of heavy chain axes too,
Yep.
which is
Todavía
another
falta
upgrade you can put
supuestamente
onto some of the
25
models. The
minutos.
sergeant's
No
got
creo
the
que
option
tiren
for some
20
pistols
minutos
and
para
close combat
hablar de
weapons.
Kill Team.
And as you can see with the Salamander on the screen there as well, you can also equip them with combat shields.
Y esto no tiene
So
mucho más.
loads of different things you can choose to mix them in with. I would imagine we're also going to see some of these converted with all the different Space Marine kits. One of the lovely things about the Horus Heresy is that
Después de todo
so
lo
many of the
del
kits are
caos
really
queda un poco
interchangeable with
pues
each
sí,
other, so you can
como
take
dice
bits
Rubén,
and
sí,
heads and
tienes
arms and
toda la
weapons and
razón,
stuff
Tomás.
and really create
Pues
a
es que ese es el problema, que yo creo que no miden muy bien el tema del hipe.
There's
o
more
del-
coming as well.
del
We
flipe,
previewed the
de cómo manejar la
Journal
expectativa
Tactical, which is
dentro del
available
directo.
to order right now. In fact, all of Saturnine
Esto
is
tienen que
available to
aprenderlo,
order
tienes
right
que
now.
empezar.
There's a new
Medianamente
Journal Tactical
fuerte.
on the horizon. It's called the Forges of Saturn.
Medianamente
And
fuerte,
this
un
is
juego
really all
tocho, algo
about
tal, como han empezado con Votan,
Vulcan's gift
pero
to
en
his
Nanocalc lo
brothers
tenían que haber dejado
through
para
the
lo último.
Saturnine project. And so it
Es
focuses very heavily on
es
all
la
of those
salida,
suits of
¿vale?
armor
Es lo que ha
that we've
importado.
seen in the Saturnine
Después
box.
sacarte
Yeah,
esto,
there's loads of great
se
new
queda
options
un
in this
meme.
book, particularly allowing you to do more stuff with your Saturnine miniatures.
Más cositas para los
there are
saturninos.
different,
Es que es eso,
basically,
¿sabes?
things that you can do to your
Hombre,
Saturnine
sí,
miniatures
a
using
los que
other
le mola
kits,
el Heresy,
mixing
pues
kits together
estarán
to create
contentos
new
quizá,
units. So this is a really
pero
great
no sé
example.
yo,
This is
¿sabes?
a Saturnine command squad, and what you've got here is a unit that's taken
El
bits
esquema
from
los
the
guerreros de
command
hierro son el
squad
top.
sprues, and also some
favor.
spare bits from someone
Hulk.
who's built a
El esquema
Saturnine
del-
Praetor with his axe. You get the hammer spare. You can now give it
Falta
to
Black
characters
Library también,
in
cierto,
your
tienes
Saturnine
toda la
command squad
razón.
and basically make them into a champion. The other
Tienes
option
toda,
that you
toda,
can
toda
have
la
inside
razón.
this is to make one of your Saturnine Terminators into a Saturnine Centurion. That's the Thousand Suns
Y
guy
aún
on
así es
the
lo que acaba
far
de decir
left there.
Rusam.
Saturnine Centurion
No
means that you
pueden
can now
cerrar
have like
con Black
2
Library.
tiers of
Es
Saturnine
una
commander you
locura
can have in
cerrar
your
con
army,
Black
and
Library.
effectively unlocks the ability to have an entire Saturnine
Es como
style
decir, no,
army if you wanted
venga,
to.
Yeah, one of the
toma.
topics that's handled inside
Tienes que
this
cerrar con un
Journal
bombazo.
Tactica is
Si no cierras con un
the way the
bombazo,
Legions embraced Saturnine
al final
armor.
la gente
Obviously, to use it at all
se
requires
queda un
you to
poco
be
meh
at least
con
to some
la-
extent
con el
psychically
preview.
sensitive. That really plays into the hands of the
They,
Thousand Suns.
Thousand Suns love it. It's their favourite.
But there's all sorts of things. It's not just the Thousand Suns that sort of.
Porque
get the
dices,
rub
bueno,
in
esto está
this,
bien, pero
so,
esto está
there'll
bien
be lots to
para
enjoy, and we'll
después de
tell you more
40K.
about it as we get
O
closer.
después
Yeah, there's some really interesting stuff
de
about
lo que
how
han
the different
enseñado de
legions have
Tou,
sort of
¿no?
embraced it. So
Esos
the Thousand Suns have sort of
sacerdotes,
used it
esos
as
heraldos.
intended to some extent and kind of put all
Ahí
their psychic
podría seguir
pilots
un
inside
poquito
them.
con esto.
The word bearers immediately crammed it full of demons just to see what would happen. But all of the legions,
Si
to some
fueseis
extent, have
consumidores de
recognized the
WWE, no se
lethality of
estrenaría
Saturnine
Terra
technology
malo.
and find a place for it in their
Ya,
legions.
bueno,
Perfect.
yo solo
Right.
digo lo que hay.
We're still not quite done in this sort of area of the timeline.
Bueno,
I
van a
am
sacar ahora
super
otra
excited
cosa más
to
de
be
la que
able to
ahora.
announce
Vete a
today
cagar.
on behalf of the Black Library that there is a
Black
new
Library va de eso.
mega series on the way. This
Bueno,
is the
sí, esto ya
Scouring.
lo había leído,
This
que
is book
empieza la
one
nueva
called
serie,
Ashes of
que
the
es
Imperium, and this kicks off a
después de la herejía
multi-book,
Horus,
multi-author
cómo se
mega
plantea
series set
Reboot el
in
tema
the
del
ashes of the Imperium.
Códex,
It's a
tal cual, las
perfect title.
luchas que hay un
The
poquito,
Horus Heresy
de
has ended. The
dominio,
Emperor is
así, ¿no?
mortally wounded
Luchas
and
de
shrouded
poder,
upon the
por decirlo
Golden
de
Throne.
una
The War
manera, ¿no?
Master
De
is dead. The
quién
forces
tiene que llevar el
the traitor
imperio,
legions
cómo
are in full
llevarlo.
retreat.
Es como convencer al resto de legiones de que se tengan que adaptar a las nuevas normativas, etcétera.
Essentially,
De eso
at
va
that premise.
esta
And
nueva
here we have
parte de los
a
libros
very
de
understandable
Horus.
confrontation between a
¿Cuánto durarán?
battered
Pues
and
yo que sé,
damaged
otros
Rogel Dawn
50.000
and
volúmenes.
Rabute Gilliman, who has arrived pristine with reinforcements. And as you can see,
No
there are
puede ser el
loggerheads
aniversario de los
already.
10 años y no salir un maldito Stonker.
Black Library are super excited for us to be announcing this today
Perdona
because
que te lo...
this is the culmination of a lot of
¿vale?
work and effort
Que te lo
between a
traduzca
really sort of carefully
un
assembled
lenguaje un
cabal
poquito
of
más...
writers and creatives that have been plotting out a multi-book series which we're going to see play out over several years. I'm really, really excited by this.
I think
Vale,
you were saying
pues esto sería
there's
Black
kind of
Library.
3 core themes, aren't there, that's
Yeah,
being explored
absolutely.
through this.
Vale.
So in
Esto
a
sería
nutshell,
Black
without
Library.
spoiling anything
No hay
for
mini,
those of you
parece.
who want to enjoy it, I promise you spoiler-free. There are 3 principal themes. Theme number 1 is what happens with the legions Astartes, right? They essentially caused all of this, or their brothers have. They've ruined the work of the Great Crusade. The Imperium is in tatters. What is the place for the Space Marine legions in the wake of this catastrophe? For the traitor legions, the second of these sort of perspectives, the War Master is dead. The whole purpose for doing this is now
Que
failed.
sí, que ya lo saben, pero
The
joder,
Chaos
se
Gods
están tirando
withdraw
5
some of their
minutazos
power. So
para
suddenly
decirme
they thought they were
el
onto a
final
good
de la
thing,
herejía Horus
now
y lo que
they're
pasa al
relatively
siguiente.
alone and at sea.
Ay, Dios.
How do they survive? How do they
Algunas
regroup?
veces
The third group
es que no
is,
saben medir
in my
los
opinion,
tiempos.
maybe the most compelling, which is what of humanity, right? They've just watched
No
these
saben medir los
demigods wage war across the Imperium, ruin everything, destroy the Emperor's great works. The Emperor is mortally wounded.
Dice José,
How do
lo
they
último es la
respond?
mini
How
de
does
Sigmar.
humanity rally, and how does it perceive
Vamos,
the place
pasa
of
eso y ya
the
hemos dicho que
Space
está el
Marine
canal,
legions that remain?
la
Absolutely.
porra
And
ya
I think
de
worth
todo,
saying
de
as well, this
siempre,
is
la gana
absolutely,
él.
you can treat this as a
Luego ya el
self-contained
resto
series.
podemos
If you have read all of the Horus Heresy from Horus Rising all the way through the full novel series and then gone through the Siege of Terror, first of all, very well done. There's a lot of books to read, some great stories in there. But if you are new to the Horus Heresy and kind of the setting in the era, you can absolutely just jump in with Atlas of the Imperium and treat the Scouring as a series in its own right.
Yeah, I have to give a little bit of a shout out to Chris Wright as well, who is the
Hablando
author chosen for this first book. He is a true gangster of words. He's written some of the really fantastic Black Library novels. If you've never read a Chris Wright book and you just want to dip your toes in ahead of trying this, I could not recommend enough Valdor, Birth of the Imperium. It sort of sits outside the rest of the sort of Horus Heresy experience a little bit.
Llevan 5 minutos hablando de un libro.
Like top tier Black Library fiction and might be a fun way to sort of whet your appetite for more Chris Wright. As we approach the release of this, we're going to have a full-length interview with Chris talking about
sé que
Ashes of
están
the
guay los
Imperium
libros,
and
¿vale? Pero
all of
no
the
creo
care
que
and
en el
consideration that's
preview
gone
de
into it and the
verano, de
narrative
tal,
involved.
de Game Workshop y
More
tal,
on that
tengas
and
que
more
dedicar
how
tanto
much we're gonna
tiempo.
see as we have
It's very exciting. I think
that was awesome. I really am super excited for it. We're not done yet.
We're not even close.
We promised that we would return to the grim darkness of the Dark Millennium.
Bueno, que vuelvan
and we do
al
now with
41º milenio.
5 new Space Marine heroes for 5 of the first founding chapters.
Ah, no, mira, los héroes que yo decía.
Aquí teníamos a model returning that has previously been in metal and resin and is now in plastic. Vulcan Heston is a famed hero of the Salamanders chapter, and his particular mission is to scour the galaxy looking for the relics left by his Primarch, the namesake Vulcan. He wears some of those relics himself, so he is equipped with an artificer suit of armor. He is carrying a handheld heavy flamer and a blade of Vulcan that crackles with magma fire and is able to slice through enemy warriors. He's also walking through flames, just in case you weren't sure he was as cool as he can be. He's just walking through the fire there as well. He is probably the most iconic Salamander's character that exists in Warhammer 40,000, and it's great to see him.
No, Primarca no,
he
es
has a couple of head options. You can have helmeted
Vulcan es
or unhelmeted.
Vulcan Heston es
Both of them look very, very cool.
¿Cómo se dice?
He is only one of the 5 new Space Marine
Next up, we have a very iconic
Darnath
and
Lysander, que
well-known
también se
hero,
decía que iba a salir con la
returning
armadura
in
exterminador.
Darnath Lysander,
No
first
está mal.
captain of the first company, I probably should say.
Se queda un
of the
poquito
Imperial
estático
Fists
quizá, pero
chapter.
claro, con la armadura
He's
exterminador
been
es un poco
remade
complicado,
in
¿no?
the
Eso,
sort of
o repite siempre la misma pose
new
o...
Terminator armor style that we saw for the first time.
It's the same scale as the ones in the
Mapa así,
and he is
se queda un poco
a
así, pero bueno.
substantial man in that armor. He has an enormous storm shield. He's carrying that incredible
Yo es
looking
que
Might be
tengo
the best storm shield
que
in
estar
Warhammer.
tranquilo.
It's up there, isn't it?
Right up
It's up
there,
there.
yeah. I think the Lion might argue with you, but we're talking top 3, right? And Yeah, everything you'd expect from this iconic
Bueno,
hero. of the Imperial
luego pues
Fists
creo que
chapter.
hay
Nice to
uno
see
de
a
los
helmet
cicatrices
option.
blancas
Yeah,
en moto,
absolutely,
debería
and
ser,
taking-
si no me
If you don't want to
equivoco.
paint a face, and sometimes you just want to get on the battlefield nice and fast. You can-
Yeah, I mean, if
Si
it
no me
was on
equivoco,
yellow, I
vale,
don't know,
pero
I might find it easy to paint
puede
the flesh, to
pasar.
be honest.
Maestro
He is
Forjador
not
es el
the
líder
only,
del
there are 5
capítulo,
of them
puede
altogether.
ser,
So
¿no?
next up we have Canok
Manos de
Var,
Hierro.
new character for the Iron Hands chapter. This
Es que los manos de hierro yo no soy muy fan, ¿vale? De los manos de hierro.
Yeah, the equivalent to
Así que
your kind
bueno,
of
está
captain
bien,
of the first company.
Yeah.
pero
Again,
bueno.
a Terminator in the same scale as
Lo
the
mismo,
recent
la armadura exterminador,
new Terminator
pero
kits. Some
ya
really
digo.
lovely little features on here, really leaning into the
El
kind of
señor del
Iron Hands
capítulo no es
lore.
Vulcan.
You've got
No,
lots
es que ya
of
no me lo sé cuál
nods
es el señor
towards
del
his
capítulo ni nada de
technological
salamanca.
know-how and their kind of
Yo
alliance
ahí
with the
peco
with
de...
Yeah, he's got sort of servo skulls attached by data
Desconocimiento,
tethers,
siento
sort of
mucho.
conjuring information. Look at the one on the bottom right-hand corner. He looks like he's projecting a fortress of redemption.
Yeah, he's got like a little holograph
Yeah.
of perhaps a building that they're planning to besiege. Or
And
something.
I
Vale,
think
sí,
my
hablando un
favourite thing on
poquito
this
como
model
la
is
mini,
actually
como
the
el
power maul, which
servocráneo
is
está
shaped
haciendo como una
after a
especie de
Tetsubo, a
proyección
weapon that I'm used to
holográfica, ¿no?
seeing,
Del
and it just really
edificio.
works on this guy's sort of straightforward, practical.
La verdad es que mola porque el concepto,
Next up,
aunque no me
and
gustan
I
los
think for
Iron
many
Hands,
people this will be
me
the
mola el
sort of,
concepto de cómo lo han
cool, guys.
the
plasmado,
model which
¿vale?
fires your imagination. The
Este
Raven Guard,
está bien,
and a
I
new
vale,
chapter
este
master.
está
absolutely
bien.
love this guy. So the
El de
new
la
chapter
Guardia del
master of the
Cuervo.
Raven Guard. You
Mira
might be
lo de las
saying,
plumas que
Eddie, they
decíamos
already
antes.
have a chapter master. What happened to Shrike?
Pero,
Shrike
¿es este?
has led the Raven
Sí,
Guard
es
for
este.
some years, but has decided that actually his place is better in
Guardia
the
del Cuervo,
shadows as the
¿vale? Que
captain
decíamos, no
of
tenemos ni idea de
stealth
quién
assault,
es,
and he has
pues Guardia del
left
Cuervo.
Ethion Shan
Pon
to
ahí,
lead the Raven
esta
Guard
mini sí
as
que mola.
their,
Esta yo
their
creo que
figurehead,
por
their
ahora, de las
commander,
tres
and the miniature
que,
is
o cuatro que han enseñado,
absolutely phenomenal.
la
We very
mejor,
recently had Logan Grimnar released.
esta es la
I think
mejor.
only this last weekend.
Me gusta más
And
con
this
el casco
continues
que con la
the tradition
capucha
of
y el
having
ojo
just an
biónico.
absolutely phenomenally cool looking chapter master miniature.
Yeah, he's redolent in sort of the
Pero
imagery
el
of the
resto
Raven Guard
está muy,
chapter
muy
you'd expect
guapo.
to see. There's those sort of tassels that
Sí,
sort
y
of
las
dangle
garras,
beneath the sort of
las
secret runic script of
garretas
deliverance.
están...
He's got feathers and fetishes.
those
and
claws.
He's got 3 head
quizá
options.
el capitán de la
Aethon
tercera es
Shan
Vulcan
is
Gesson.
a
Vale.
really
Maestro
just
Vulcan.
tremendous
Vale.
centerpiece model, and I think the Raven Guard fans
Desde
out
luego
there are
es,
going to be
es
delighted
por ahora la mejor. A
by,
ver si sacan el de las cicatrices, que
um,
supuestamente debería
and
ir
there's
en
one more.
moto.
Uh,
Ahí está,
Saboden
cicatrices
Khan,
en
he is
mótico.
the first captain of the White Scars chapter, so he leads its first company on this just mighty looking grab
Pues
bike.
está guay.
It's got
Mola.
a Gatling
Ahí tienes
cannon
más
mounted into the
celdas.
front. He's just the perfect
tiene opción de
embodiment
casco.
of that White Scars hero huntsman archetype.
Yeah, it's very, very cool.
La
There's
opción es
all
muy
sorts of
parecida a
beautiful,
otras
Chigorian
motos que hemos
details on
llegado a
there.
ver.
You can see the kind of pattern on the front of the
Pero
jet
este
bike is
está guay.
very reminiscent of some of their
Este está muy
Heresy era designs on their dreadnoughts and things like that. We've got the model with us in a second. We're going to have a kind of a look at it, but
Ese motor es de
there's
Star
some
Wars.
beautiful detail on the back. He's got kind of Chigorian shields and sheaths and
Star Wars,
decapitated enemy heads and stuff like that.
da igual.
It's just the most White Scars looking thing you've ever
Sí,
seen.
a partir de ahora creo que las
That fits
motos, pues,
beautifully
lo
in
que
an army if
decíamos
you've
de
got
las
lots of
motos que van a
outriders and
salir, que
fast-moving
yo opto
stuff.
por la 11ª van a ser
It's
así.
been quite a
Cristian.
long wait for the White Scars
Yeah,
to have
absolutely.
a character on a bike,
the
and
characters
it's
have
well
traditionally
worth
had
it.
to walk, haven't they? So not anymore.
Creo que va a haber motos así.
Really beautiful.
Creo, pero no estoy seguro.
How do I
Tampoco
get my hands
puedo-
on these? You say there's
No
some
manejo tanto lo
questions to
como
answer
es.
there.
Bueno,
There's
las
a
Combat
series of
Patrol
combat patrols coming out. Listen carefully,
que
I'm
dije que iba a
explaining
salir con
one
cada
piece
una
of
de
nuance
ellas,
to this.
que muchas
Saboden
van a tener a
Khan
los
is
personajes
in the White Scars
para
Combat Patrol. You see it
que se
here.
la compre la
It's
gente,
3 Armada
obviamente.
bikes, an Intercessor Assault Squad, a transport, and
Que ya
Saboden
tiene
Khan.
suficientes
He will be
cicatrices
available
blancas,
separately,
tiene
not
suficientes
that long after
motos,
the release of this combat patrol.
suficientes
He's the only one of these heroes
transportes o lo
that
que
comes
sea.
inside a combat patrol.
No es
The
mi
others,
problema, dice Game Workshop.
are available separately, but here are the combat patrols that come out
pues
with
eso,
them.
se venden
So
ya.
you have an Imperial Fist combat
La
patrol,
Imperial- puños
just
imperiales
full
que no
of
tiene el
heavily
personaje.
armored Imperial Fist troops. You've got Terminators and a command group, and it just looks wonderful. Next up, Iron Hands, heavy
La de los,
intercessors,
la de los
heavy
Iron Hands
weapons,
tampoco tiene el personaje,
everything you
un
might
poco
expect
feo.
from these tough, durable warriors.
En
of
mis
the
tiempos los
Iron
Combat Patrol llevaban más
Hands
plásticos
chapter.
que cartón.
The Raven Guard, bit more
Fast and
No, la
Furious.
reina
yeah,
tampoco
fast.
lleva
That's
el
good. I like
personaje.
that. That was strong. Yeah, they're going to get in amongst it much faster. Imagine Aethon Shan leading those; it'll be tremendous. But what if you just want to carry all the flames
Y la de
all
los
the
salamandras
time?
sí que
Every model
esta,
in this entire
no,
comic
tampoco
control
lleva el
has
personaje,
something
¿no?
that
Este
makes
no
you
era el
hotter.
personaje.
Either a
¿no?
melter gun or a flamethrower
Yeah.
in some way, shape,
Porque
or
tenía
form.
I think there's
era
some
diferente y
assault
tal.
intercessors who maybe
No era
ruin
Vulcan.
my attempt
Oh,
to
Vulcan
complete it.
este.
But do you know
Never
what?
mind.
That is a lot of flamer and or melter.
Las cicatrices paga el pato, sí.
Some new transfers in those kits as well, Adam. I know
Luego
you
tiene
were
el
a fan
cable
of that when we were
de
looking
just
through
hit
kits.
on my like secret nerd part of
Van a enseñar las
I get
minis,
really
se van a
excited by
tirar otros 20
transfer
minutos
sheets.
hablando de
I
las
can't
minis,
do freehand
porque
to save
las
my life,
tienen
but I
ahí
can
puestas
stick a
para
decal
enseñar.
on with the best of them. Each of these will come with its own
Sí, yo también
transfer
pensaba que
sheet,
los personajes iban a estar
which means
secuestrados.
that you can
Una
apply
táctica
all the
muy
details,
habitual
the
por parte
heraldry
de
and
Warsaw,
everything.
ya sabéis,
There's
de
loads of cool
secuestrar
extras
los
on those.
personajes ahí para
Case
que
in point,
pases
the
por
Empiricist
caja y
one
te
has
compres
some
miniaturas
decals
que
that
quizás no
do Crimson
necesites y luego
Fists.
tengas que
So
revender de mala
if you
manera,
were
etcétera,
a
etcétera.
fan of the Crimson Fists successors, then you can fill your boots. We'll show you those ahead of time so you can sort of plan your purchases and your painting experiences as we get closer to these.
Yeah,
Shall we have a look at the models?
Yeah, I've got some of the miniatures right here. We've got some kind of classic stuff, so you can see the scale of them. And we've also got some of the new miniatures. So if we start off over here with the Raven Guard side, I brought along a assault intercessor sergeant. It's not a small model by any stretch of the imagination, but you sort of get a sense of how big the new chapter master of the Raven Guard is there. He's on a big base. He's going to be quite an intimidating character. He's certainly going to be the largest of your infantry models, probably standing not far off the height of a redemptive
Van a acabar
dreadnought
porque
at the top of his
quedan
base
10 minutos,
there.
van a
What's
acabar
interesting
con
is you
Kitty.
may have a tactical rock to sort of raise
Van a
them up a
acabar
little,
con Kitty.
but Darneth Lysander is such a brute
Con la caja de
that,
Kitty, que
he's
sabemos
not that
necrones.
much shorter than either of the
Y
two models you just
supuestamente
mentioned. He really is very dominating. And then Saboden Khan next to an Outrider. First of all, check
El
out
árbol
the
está guapo, la verdad es que sí,
similarities between the
Guillermo.
stylings, the
El árbol sí
sort
que
of,
mola. Está
the
resuelto.
shape of the bike, very sort of reminiscent of the things that you see on the Outrider. But if you spin it around, check out some of the
There are
details
so
on the
many
back.
lovely details on this. I really like the shield. There's some sheaths, there's some extra
Mola,
weapons.
mola, sí,
There's
el
like,
detalle del
as
escudo
well as
con la
having
espada ahí
loads of lovely
anaquelada,
detail, there's
tal.
also loads of space if you want to do some like Chigorian freehand or something like
A mí me
that.
sigue faltando
I
los
think
buenos
that's
verdes
going
que
to
bien.
be up there with the Golden Demons and things, so that where people choose
It's
the
yes,
models.
it's exciting to see what
It's
people
really
do
nice.
with it.
Que no, Aran, por favor.
There we are.
No, va con segunda.
Surely that's all the Space
Terminarán
Marine we have time
la
for.
preview
So
con
you
Kitty.
say that, but there is a little bit more Space Marine on the way. This one's really exciting for me.
Que va a haber más
because,
marinos espaciales en el camino. Lo que
I
os
got to
dije
help a little bit on the
del
team that
tema
have
de...
brought this to life. I am over the moon
casco.
to present
Si fuese de
the
lobos
first
espaciales.
ever officially licensed wearable Space Marine helmet. This
Bueno,
is the
de
Lieutenant
Joy-Toy,
Titus Mark
el
10
casco de
helmet
Titus.
made by Joy-Toy. If you've not heard of Joy-Toy, where have you been hiding? Joy-Toy make
Vale, pero
beautiful
¿cuánto
action
costará el
figures
casco
under
de
license from
Titus?
Games Workshop.
Y empieza a
They do
hacerme
Warhammer
uno
40,000
de...
ones, and they do Warhammer Age of Sigmar
de
ones,
lobos
and they do
espaciales.
Warhammer the Horus Heresy ones, and now
De los
they have
nuevos,
made
de los
this
Headtakers.
incredible helmet. It's
tienen cascos
it's just really
especiales muy
something.
molones.
And I can talk about some of its features. Inside, it's got an adjustable sort of headband, so you can change it to fit your head. What that means is that unless you've got the teeniest,
Hay que terminar con el
tiniest
décimo
like a small
aniversario.
child
Si no hemos
or
sido
a grot,
engañados. Hemos pasado,
you should
Guillermo,
be able
de
to
la
make it
mejor
fit.
preview
I
del
have
mundo a hemos
the
sido
most
engañados, ¿no?
preposterous, like potato head
Yo creo que
imaginable.
es que
I'm
no
going to say
se
what
ve
everyone is
demasiado
thinking,
tiempo.
which is just put it on.
Yeah,
Adam.
yeah,
Just
I
see what it
will.
looks like.
But
Nah,
before I
que
do,
va a poner.
so this is the
Levántalo en la cabeza.
prototype that we've been
Dice que es un
sort of
prototipo.
working
¿Le
with them
entrará?
on. And
Hombre, yo creo
before
que
I do,
ya
I'm
se lo
gonna
habrá
flip a
probado, ¿no?
switch,
Si no sería un
'cause
cachondeo.
we're
si no
under very
entrase.
bright studio lights, but inside, can you see the illuminated a little bit? There's some really great pictures that you'll be able to see later, but I feel
Vale,
like a
sí,
Space Marine
Hubiese estado
already.
cachondo que no
This
lo
is
hubiese-
I
just
feel like
que
I'm
no lo
standing
pudiese
next to
entrar.
Space Marine. It's incredible.
I mean, it's never felt so good to feel like Lieutenant Titus. So
Hubiese estado cachondo.
the lenses inside illuminate.
Porque...
You can
Joder,
buy it
hubiese
with
sido
this
algo-
lovely display stand as well.
algo
This is the Mark
interesante,
10 helmet stand. It looks like something
para reírse un
straight out
poquito,
of
pero bueno.
a battle
Obviamente
barge
se lo habrán
or a
probado
Fortress
antes,
Monastery
así que
cell
sí.
where a Space Marine might put his war gear when he's finished.
Ese casco
on
para la
campaign.
bici es genial,
It's
sí.
your choice whether
Lo
you
que
want
pasa
to
es que
get
no
the
creo
helmet
que te
set to go with
proteja
that,
mucho.
but I've had this in my office for quite a while and it looks really cool.
no quiere
When
gastar más
can you get your
dinero en
hands on
esto.
it, I guess is the question.
When can I get my hands on it, Adam?
I'm glad you asked. The answer is when this preview show is done, the pre-orders begin. So
Vale,
you'll be able
para
to go
los cascos
to
el pre-order empieza en
warhammermerch.com
cuanto acabe.
and pre-order it. So yeah, I'm just over the moon to see this in the flesh, in real world. Very, very exciting. We're
Bueno,
still not done
termina
with
con
Warhammer
Kill Team y
4000.
ala.
We need to go to Kill Team, to the Kill Team.
Vale, de Kill Team. Venga. Vamos con necrones. y la Death Watch.
So, an amazing new box for Kill Team, a new expansion, 2 brand new kill teams, a new kill zone, some incredible miniatures. Let's take a look. This is Kill Team Tomb World, and you get absolutely loads of this box.
It's just bursting with cool
This
stuff, right?
might be the best Kill Team box.
Obviamente,
It's way up there.
puede ser la mejor en caja de Kill Team.
There's
Pues
some
si
beautiful
te
stuff in
gustan
here.
esos
If
dos
we talk about
ejércitos,
the
pues sí,
battlefield
quizás
first,
sí.
you've got some absolutely amazing Necron scenery, in a little bit like
si
the
no,
Into the Dark scenery we saw
Yeah, absolutely.
a little while back,
No,
and
no.
certainly allows you to play games in that same sort of style. Doesn't replace it necessarily, but allows you to play that kind of close confines, up-close battles. Really thematic. You've got the kind of undead Necron crypts as the warriors wake from their eons-long slumber. But the kill teams themselves are probably where the real excitement is. So
Maldito Rubén,
if we start off
que me
with
escribe
the Death
en el
Watch
grupo
kill team, this is the
de
return
tonterías.
of the original kill
Bueno,
team.
pues
The
ahí
name
vemos
kill team
un
itself
ángel
comes from
sangriento,
the concept of Death
un
Watch,
lobito espacial,
and
¿no?
they have come out with an amazing
Ultramarine.
new range of miniatures. There are 10 of these guys in the
No
box.
sé quién
You
es
can build them
ese,
in a
ni
whole
quién es
range
lo
of different ways, and there are some lovely features. Adam, have you got any
bueno,
favourites for
I
them?
mean,
Aquí
for me, I'm all
¿no?
about the big firepower, right? So, sort of bottom right, you have a flesh
Entonces, si
terrier
nos ponemos
holding
a pensar
frag
en los
cannon,
gorros,
because that's the best way to greet the Xenos, right? Yeah, you can't really
esta
go wrong.
sería la gorra,
I called him out as a flesh
Votan.
terrier because I happen to know he is. One of the things that's really striking
Voy a-
about
voy a
this set
mirarlo en
is that
el-
there's
en el este.
loads of different heraldic devices
Yeah,
available.
some quite
Teníamos-
obscure chapters as well.
Yeah, I mean, so flesh terriers are
Votan,
perhaps not obscure,
Though,
but they're not necessarily what you
el
might expect.
Pilgrim,
For example,
bueno,
top center,
el
that's a
Cowboy,
member of the Wolf Spears,
bueno,
which is one of the few successes to the
Underworlds.
Space Wolves chapter. You've got an Ultramarine on the right-hand
Este no
side.
sería
The
Tow, el
crossed
mago,
swords
pues.
on the one bottom left, I think is probably making him a
La
guardian
verdad es
of
que
the
se queda
I
un
covenant.
think
poco
you
raro.
might be
But,
right.
Porque los sombreros al final no era
as a
tanto
Dark
sombrero,
Angels
era simplemente
collector,
por la
that's quite
coña
exciting.
de
We had a
Sigmar.
fun game earlier on where we tried to guess all the different chapters.
Yeah.
A Red Scorpion in there as well. You can't quite make him out, but
Yeah,
There's
estamos
5
esperando a
more,
ver si hay alguna sorpresita,
that you
José.
can
A
see
ver
here.
si-
So if you see any that are a chapter that you're interested in, shout them out in the chat. I think the top middle guy is going to get some attention.
Ah, bueno, que
because
se
there's a lot of
pueden
fans for those
poner
guys.
diferentes sombreros para decir,
Loads
oye,
of
pues este es de
options,
mi
loads of
capítulo,
different
este es del otro.
specializations for your kill team to be built with. They really are the personification of pick the right weapon for the job when you
Bueno,
start.
Hunters,
And when you play Kill Team, the way that this, any Kill Team works is that you have a roster of different warriors, and then you can choose the ones you want before your game starts. You get 10 models in this box to make your Kill Team. You've got
Yes,
loads of different
miniaturas.
options, and then you choose before each game. Your Kill Team in-game will be 5 of those warriors, and you can
Yeah.
pick any 5 you want.
I mean, check it out with the underslung grenade launcher and all of the
Debe
grenades
ser
just in the harness.
It's great to see a mix of Gravis and Phobos and
Yeah,
Tacticus
absolutely.
as well. So that's a Gravis, effectively a heavy intercessor archetype, but he's even more upgunned than you might expect
bueno,
a normal
normalitos.
heavy
Yo
intercessor to be,
tampoco
which have
aquí me
already got
tiraría,
quite big
dice,
guns. In
poniéndome
game
súper
terms, the
loco,
Death Watch have
Es
got
que yo
all
la
sorts
Death
of
Watch
specialist
generalmente
Xenos killing kit,
no-
but one
el
of their
concepto me gusta, pero
things
luego-
is effectively in each turning point you
Nah,
can choose one of them to use a
luego el
special
este no
piece of
me apasiona
ammunition,
mucho.
and you can basically pick a special rule for that gun to have. So you
Empezamos
could be
a ganar
blast
en
or
estos
precision or
momentos.
extra AP or something like that.
Es
So
que,
that,
es que ha sido como mucho
a kind
bajón
of
y luego
quite long-standing
bueno,
concept
mucho
of them
bajón
having
después
the
de un
ammunition to do
subidón tan
exactly the
alto,
job you need them to do
porque
makes its way into
ha
Kill Team,
decaído
as well as them
muy
just
fuerte
being
la
pretty
preview
good
para al
all-round
menos
Space
nosotros,
Marine,
Yeah,
porque
absolutely.
lo
But
de
they're not the
decía
only thing
Horus,
in the
¿no?
kit, although you might excuse
El
our
tal, el
enthusiasm
Kill
for
Team,
speaking. So
los
there's also the
personajes de los
Canoptic Circle.
marines,
These are the Necron guardians of this tomb complex. Essentially, their job
bueno,
has been
y aquí
to
tenemos
oversee
por lo
the
que hay.
reanimation protocols of all of the Necrons that you see in these alcoves. We'll show you some more of the terrain in a bit.
Así que
And so these are
mira, fijaos que lo que os digo, que me gusta más los Necrones que los de la Death Watch.
sentinels that are ready to now
Pero por
sort
este,
of
tío,
attack the
prácticamente.
interlopers.
And they were just going about
Y por el
the
oye, el
business, waking up all the
escarabajo,
Necrons, and all of a sudden this very rude Kill Team of Death Watch burst
por el
into their
escarabajo.
crypt and decided to start wrecking up the place. So they've had to
Yo estoy
mobilize
completamente
against
como
them.
el que sí tiene un
It is a
Sajato,
very
y ya
powerful kill
sabemos que
team.
viene
This is
dentro de poco y que
the
viene
Canoptic
viene
Circle. It is led by a
con mucha
Geomancer,
caña.
which is a type of cryptech. That's the model you can see there. She is the leader of the warband, and she definitely kind of is the core of the force, right? So
And she's big and powerful.
she's
right?
big and powerful. Yeah, she alone can take on a Space Marine, but
Esta
the other
peli es
troops in
como te
her
hace tacón,
force
macho, está con-
need her to kind of be
con
at the
Eva
centre to
Green.
kind of coordinate the efforts.
Pues sí.
You've got a few different other models in the mix there as well, as the Geomancer.
Ay, ahora sacan un nuevo héroe Stormcast para terminar por todo lo alto, dice Aren. Tenéis muchas esperanzas de que van a sacar, que van a decir, tomad un teaser, un no sé qué.
Crawler, then sort of the right hand, and there's another one sort of central to the right hand side. Then the smaller things, they are.
Te quedas con la sensación de que si termina así la preview, regulera cuando la primera parte ha sido la leche. Es que es así, como dice Tomás, es que es así.
Some Necrons, but you know, when the Deathwatch come knocking, they leap into action.
Yeah, the crawlers have got some particularly formidable weaponry, right? So like they're up against the Deathwatch kill team, so the guns on those can take out a Space Marine if they get a good solid round of firepower. They are one of the. You've got your kind of central character, which does all the kind of utility stuff. Then you've got two really good solid gun platforms, and then you've got the rest of the force, which whizzes around and does the objective taking stuff. So it's a really flexible little team. Also worth pointing out that the box has a bunch of Necron warriors. Why does it have a bunch of Necron warriors? You might ask. Well, one of the other things that you get inside this box is rules for playing basically co-op missions where you both play as Deathwatch and you're up against hordes, undying hordes of Necron warriors.
Joint operations is super fun, and
el más básico que tengamos.
as a Deathwatch kill team, sort of stalking around a Necron, awakening Necron tomb complexes.
Porque es que no lo veo.
And just a great other way of playing the game.
I'm going to totally jump on it. Have a look around this board, and you can see in some of those alcoves there are those reanimating Necrons.
A nivel estético.
And there's like weird portals and glyphs and all sorts of stuff.
Replete with cool imagery. There's fallen masonry. You can imagine they've been asleep for so long that, you know, seismic events, whatever, of course, needs to fall down. Plus, and or maybe the wolf spear hitting everything with its
Ya van a ser y media.
This is
Recemos porque haya algo.
Warhammer Adventures in a tomb complex.
Han manejado los tiempos.
And of course, both of these kill teams will be usable in Warhammer 40,000. There'll be a way to use your Deathwatch in that game as well, and your new Necrons. And of course, there is a new book, a new dossier that comes with this, which has all the rules you need to play these in your games of kill team.
Yeah, let's have a look at some of them in the flesh.
Parar un bostecillo.
The box, there you go. Let's have a look at some of these in the flesh. In particular, it'd be good to get the Geomancer in because that gives a sense of the scale. So my favourite with the frag cannon. But when you put the Geomancer,
estoy con Aaron. Solo el personaje Necron es más chulo que todos los marines, que son un poco más de lo mismo. Es que además los de la Deathwatch son prácticamente porque solo tienen la hombrera especial de cada capítulo. No están con las pieles de los espaciales, con túnicas, con tal, ¿no? Tienen la hombrera del capítulo y... Dice Charlie, Enanos del Caos un poco frío. Aquí estábamos flipándolo a saquísimo, Charlie. Aquí hemos estado Enanos del Caos top.
Yeah, I think wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that
no hace falta comparar estas miniaturas.
Since the concept of kill team was sort of re-emerged into the consciousness.
Absolutely. Right. I think we've done it.
Venga, a ver.
We're around the 90-minute mark. I did say it would be a long one, but we've shown you all of our Warhammer previews.
Cuidado.
We should go to question corner. That was good prompt.
No, preguntas. No,
Simon, there's probably a question or three, right?
There's quite a few. Yeah. Do you want some rapid fire ones to get you going?
Let's
see what we can do.
We're within 12.
Okay, let's go. So start off, Old World. Are the new Tomb King minis resin or plastic?
They are plastic.
Let's go with the Kill Team Tomb World. Is the new Necron terrain similar in dimension to the Gallo?
It is similar. I don't think it's exactly the same.
Yeah, Gallo Dark would be a good reference point.
So we've got Warhammer Underworlds. Will the new warbands or any of the re-released Grand Alliance warbands be receiving rules to use them in Warhammer Age of Sigmar?
I believe you can use all of them in Age of Sigmar, can't you? I don't want to. Certainly.
Well,
I'm not going to commit. There you go. Show my face as a face of non-committal.
One thing that is worth saying is that quite a lot of the new battle tomes have a place for the Warhammer Underworlds warbands as generic archetypes of that thing. So the Gloomspite kits, for example, you've got a place for the wolves.
I think that's a more comprehensive answer.
That's probably the way the place that you'll find.
Yeah, that's fair. The Hellsmiths.
No has sacado ningún roadmap.
We said that already. We have.
Yes. Yeah.
Well done us.
So
been a long 90 minutes.
the Adepts Astartes ones we've seen. Does Superman Khan have a helmeted option?
He does have a helmeted option.
Although
tenías las esperanzas muy altas, yo
safety
creo, si
would
esperabas
be
eso.
an
Por
absolute
desgracia.
formation when you're riding free in the wind.
You
like the
might
White
be
Scars.
riding in a vacuum, at which point you're probably
just
allowed.
hold your breath.
Just
Get on with it. Yeah.
Okay.
Déjame soñar. Hombre, yo te dejo soñar, por supuesto.
So, where can we expect to see the lore and rules for the shiny new characters?
That is a great question. The rules will be available online.
So some of the rules, if the character is being re-released, already
diciendo de Kill Team de
exists. Vulcan and Lysander are already there. The other rules will be available online.
And I'm really glad you asked about the lore, because I know a thing. Phil Kelly from the Warhammer 40,000 lore team came and had a chat with me, and they've written full background for each of these characters and narrative stories, which will be
qué bien, full background para estos personajes.
When that happens, I'm super excited because I don't know anything about Aethon Shan, and I want to learn his story. So yes, there we go.
Awesome. So we've got two more quick ones if we can. So the Horus Heresy Age of Darkness. Are some of the Wargate options that are currently no longer available to certain units ever going to be revisited?
So that's a good question. So we do know that there will be more things released in plastic across the course of this edition. With some of those plastic kits, you may see war gear options returning that have previously been available. You might also see some war gear options that have never existed before added to those units. So hopefully that answers some of the question.
One last one was on the scouring. How many books can we expect to see in the series?
At least one, because it's got the number 1 on the side of it. I don't want to steal the thunder of any future sort of news from Black Library other than to announce it today. But what they have told us, and it was one of the best conversations of my professional life ever to sit down with the editing team
será la primera y luego irá capítulo a capítulo. No del libro, irá por cada libro será reboot convenciendo a cada capítulo para que se adapten al códex.
There's bazillions more questions that I couldn't possibly get to. They're scrolling past so quick. It's all I could do to find the ones I got. But yeah,
that's great.
So,
what remains, I guess, at this point in the juncture is, first of all, to thank all of you for tuning in and spending 90 minutes of brilliant Warhammer fun with us. I've really enjoyed myself.
I had a great time. I always have a great time.
Awesome. There's some general housekeeping to do. If you've missed anything in this and you want to know more, go to warhammercommunity.com, read the articles that are there on the website. There's pictures, there's more information than Eddie and I would have remembered to tell you. And you can watch the videos back as well. If you are looking for more Warhammer excitement right now in your life, we're going to throw back to Coma. There's Warhammer 40,000 tournament taking place, I believe, right now is what we're going back to. So you can hang around here, especially on the Twitch channel. I believe that is true. What else is there to say? The helmet. Go and find it on warhammermerch.com. I think we're done.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Brilliant. Right. Thank you, Simon, for asking questions. Thanks to the crew here who've made it all work. Eddie, it's been a pleasure. We can't wait to see you again next time. Take care.
Pues no hay escena post créditos de Marvel. Vale, no tenemos escena post créditos. Lo paro. Y vamos a ver un par de cositas rápidamente, ¿vale? Para que lo tengamos ahí. Espérate, la presentación. Quito este. ¿Y cuál era? Este, ¿vale? He ido ya directamente a la mandanga. Bueno, no, venga, vamos aquí. Vale, vamos a ver rápidamente. Voy a lo que nos interesa. Para los de Reyes Funerarios, que quizá tal y cual, ¿vale? Importante. Son los dos kits de plástico, aquí lo pone. Unos miniaturas de plástico y aquí lo ponen en abajo, ¿vale? Plastic kit, ¿vale? Luego ya, pues, si eso, pues haré un pequeño resumen de un poquito esto de cómo funciona esto. Pero bueno, de los libros, de los Arcane Journals, pero no hay mucho más, ¿vale? Espera, ¿no se ha ido al otro lado? Ah, sí. Vale, de aquí, que teníamos la nueva portada, el falconero, que mola mucho, Blood Crazy Vampire, este es vampiro, ¿vale? Mola, con afinidad por las criaturas salvajes, no dice mucho más, ¿vale? Tendré que verme otra vez la esta para ver qué me dicen. Molan los halconcillos. Este será un token, seguramente sea un token como los que hay muchos, ¿no? De estos para recordarte una habilidad o alguna cosilla. ¿Vale? Y luego en Noctánimas, que en Noctánimas pues el alquimista, ¿vale? Un alma maldita, bla, 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 ¿vale? Entonces ya lo vimos que va a tener las habilidades, son diferentes opciones de pociones, unas para fastidiar al rival, hacer daño o creo que quitar visibilidad o algo así, no lo he entendido muy bien, y otras para beneficiar a los colegas. Bueno, por fin Por fin se resuelve estos rumores engine que llevan 50 años. Y luego la caja de Spearhead, que es la leche. ¿Vale? ¿Qué nos dicen aquí? Bueno, que, mira, very nice dice, que vendrán con dados, obviamente, ¿vale? No dicen nada de la salida, pero ya sabemos que, pues, oleos que esto va a ir para septiembre, ¿vale? Esto va a ir para septiembre. Nanocaos. Nanocaos, esto es la leche, Nanocaos, ¿vale? No voy a poner el pero Nanocaos, brutalísimo, ¿vale? El Warscroll este no se pueden ver las habilidades, simplemente se pueden ver que son 5 ataques a 3 estrés, R-1 daño 2, si no me equivoco, ¿vale? Así que no se es del déspota, ¿vale? No se pueden ver las habilidades, es héroe, infantería, así que no puedo decir nada más, ¿vale? ¿Aquí qué pasa? Pues aquí estoy, ¿qué pasa? Pues has llegado, bueno, que quizás lo has visto en el otro lado, ¿vale? Y pues luego las miniaturas que están brutales, ¿vale? Las miniaturas están brutales. Me gusta mucho el concepto de las armas que le han metido ahora, ¿vale? Estas así más, creo que son de ahora sí, antes eran de otro rollo, más planas, en el sentido de que no van anchas y planas, que eso está guay. Me gustan mucho los nuevos cascos, más metálicos, ¿vale? Este es el que me flipa, ¿vale? El que debe ser el músico que va con el Hobgrot, ese es el que me mola, ¿vale? El casco ese me flipa. Y luego las enanitas, ¿vale? Espadas y lanzas. Recordad, estos se pueden montar con espadas o con lanzas. Vale. A ver si dice algo de las infernal cohorts, elementos. No dicen nada del tema de las cabezas, cuántas cabezas habrá porque yo lo que veo aquí es, no veo diferenciación de sexos por ninguna parte salvo para este, así que yo creo que le puedes poner la cabeza de una tía o la de un tío indistintivamente, ¿vale? Así que dependerá de cuántas cabezas de mujer vengan o de hombre, básicamente. Luego los cañones, que hay uno de misiles, ¿vale? Tenemos misiles y tenemos cañonacos, ¿vale? Que está muy guay, muy molón. Pues bien, ¿vale? Este yo creo que es lo peor, ¿no? La artillería yo creo que es la peor de todas las que han enseñado. Luego el toro, que con los dos cañones está muy bien, pero es que con las dos mazas, es impresionante. Con las dos mazas mola mogollón. El códex de la caja, porque recuerda que esto es lo que vendrá con la caja, ¿vale? Ojo, 32 Warscroll, ¿vale? Para todo. Esto significa pues que ya sabéis que hay un Warscroll para tal, una tarjeta para las habilidades de alianza, tal cual, y otros para los muñecos, así que ahí estaría. Pero eso no es todo. Tendríamos aquí al Demon Smith, ¿vale? O Demon Smith, ¿vale? Que este me mola muchísimo. Este me mola un poquito menos, el Lassen Elder. Está bien, pero me mola menos. Luego el kit doble, kit dual de los centauros, que a mí me gustan muchísimo estos cascos. Y el tema de ir con el pechito al descubrirte tal, eso me mola. Ahí ya, pues justo es el que había. Además me gustan más estas armas que las mazas esas. ¿Vale? Pero bueno, están guays. Luego, unidad de disparo. Con cascos diferentes, que eso está muy bien. Que los cascos sean diferentes. Estos parecen lanzallamas. Es otra kit dual porque estos son lanzallamas. Y estos son cañonacos. ¿Vale? Los Hobgrots para Andrés. No hay Aero Hobgrot, Andrés. No hay Aero Hobgrot. Y luego ya el hurtar este y que esto es la hostia, ¿vale? Este está brutalísimo, ¿vale? Utilizaré este seguramente para comparativa de tamaño. Porque el otro me lo tienen ahí cortado la peana ahí, pero lo utilizaré, seguramente. Y la portada normal del tomo. Que este es el tirán, no, es uno normal a pie, ¿no? Un guerrero normal a pie. Y pues ¿qué podemos leer al final? Dice, esto no son todas las novedades, todas las noticias, novedades. Dice, estad atentos al community después de que el ejército se lance. Donde llevaremos reglas actualizadas para Warcry, ¿vale? Así que eso, cuando pone todas las novedades se refieren a eso, yo creo, simplemente, ¿vale? A lo de Warcry. No nos empecemos a pensar de que van a sacar más minis. Porque yo creo que, como podemos ver, tenemos 1, 2, bueno, 2 y 3, ¿vale? Porque este con las lanzas es otro Wasker, ¿vale? Tenemos 1, 3, 2, 3, 4, vamos a poner este que solo es un Wasker, este, 4, 5, porque las armas yo creo que podría ser lo mismo, ¿vale? El mismo Wasker. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, estos sí que son diferentes. 10 y como es otra arma podría ser otro tipo de Wasker, ¿vale? 12, 13, 14 y 15 Wasker. Yo optaría 14 y 15 Wasker. Una sería muy decente, ¿eh? El héroe Horus para la siguiente edición. Lo bueno es que siguen con el trasfondo de que se hacen piedras, como dice Kumbal. Bueno, si a ti te gustaba ese trasfondo, está genial, ¿eh? Porque lo hemos visto que parece que sí y tal, parece que... Así que bueno, y ya digo, no voy a pillar nada más porque bueno, está el de Warcry, ¿vale? Abriré la caja de Warcry, que vienen cartas, vienen también cartas. Ponía que es una expansión, pero bueno, con los Kurnozi y con los enanicos, ¿vale? Con los enanicos aquí. Un tablero y 2 mazos, ¿vale? 2 mazos, no vienen 4. Y luego pues lo que han enseñado de las bandas. A mí me apasionan muy bien. El problema es que de todas estas bandas, yo solo quiero esta. No quiero esta, porque ya la tengo. Esta tampoco me interesa, aunque no la tenga. Y no quiero esta porque ya la tengo. Solo quiero esto. Y me lo meten en una sola caja. Hijos de Satanás. Así que nada, ahí estaría. ¿Vale? Y dice, Warcry, no juegues con mi corazón. Oh, le van a sacar reglas a los enanos estos para Warcry. Otra cosa es que te vayan ahí y tal. Voy a leeros así rápidamente y vamos a chapar, ¿vale? Yo creo. Básicamente, mucha gente, como dice Andrés, se va a gastar los dineros. Vale, dice... por las escenas por créditos, mala preview. Dice pues un 0 la preview entonces. Joder, Guillermo, tío, un 0 la preview. Los enanos del caos han sido buenísimos. Qué perros que son los males gestionando el hype. Eso desde luego. No lo han gestionado. Ha fallado el montaje y el ritmo, desde luego. Pero como preview, como cosas que han enseñado, me ha parecido genial. Pues primera parte un 10, segunda parte un 0. Así con 5, ¿no, Tomás? Me compro los reyes, el cetrero y los enanos. Ay, Andrés, te va a gastar una pasta para que venga. Reyes, Nighthound, Fek, enanos, es que hay mucha mandanga. Kumba, que lo habíamos leído antes, que acaba de que acaba de llegar. Así que estaría. Los liches guapísimos, dice. Los liches, yo ya lo digo. Lo voy a poner aquí otra vez para que lo tengáis en cuenta lo que digo, ¿vale? Están muy bien. Salvo que cuando los abres y ves la imagen, tienen la misma auténtica pose. El torso para arriba tiene la misma pose. Cabeza para atrás. Mano sujetando el báculo y la otra mano. Una está señalando y la otra sujetando la balanza, ¿no? Pero la otra señala... Ahí. Tío, otra pose. Por favor. Otra pose. No seas ratota, ¿vale? No seas ratotas. El diseñador ahí un poquito ratota. Es que si comparas el cañón con el de Katai, sí, este cañón es un poquito, Charlie, el de Nano Chaos es un poquito en comparación con el de Katai. El Katai está más molón. Me encanta el detalle de las tablas de piedra, sí, el que lee el libro de tablas de piedra, sí. Y luego está muy bien la salida. Y ya nos vamos, sí, que hay que cenar, ¿vale? Así que ya estaría. Bueno, pues muchas gracias por haber estado aquí con nosotros. Nos vemos el domingo donde voy a resumir todo el directo. Lo interesante del directo, ¿vale? Que va a ser básicamente lo de Sigmar y Underworlds, y lo otro lo voy a poner un poquito más ligero, ¿vale? Voy a poner que esto es, pues yo que sé, que esto va a ser en plástico, lo de reyes funerarios, etcétera, etcétera. Pero vamos, voy a dejar como imagen final el torete. Es que el torete mola muy bien, por favor. El torete mola muy bien. Es que me vais a decir que el toro no mola. No se ve bien. Se está ahí. Lo pongo aquí. ¿Vale? El nuevo la macho. Así que nada, eso, que muchas gracias por estar aquí, que nos iremos viendo el domingo, que como digo, intentaré hacer, como digo, las comparativas para ver el tamaño, etcétera, etcétera, con diferentes bichos. Acepto sugerencias con quién queréis que meta de miniaturas en comparaciones, etcétera, en el Discord. Y pues nada, que nos vemos el domingo, ¿ok? Así que venga,